I can't check my microphone. Somebody else has to, I think. Where's my mic here? No, it's not making that. Okay, can anyone tell which microphone? Where do I find the microphone on this thing? I'm guessing somewhere up here. See if that little thing moved. Yep, it did. Okay. So we're still going with the microphone. It's on the thing. I have no idea why it won't switch over to the other mic. But whatever.
Do that thing like 3 times before we go live.
Yep. Okay, everyone is able to hear me, I guess. David says, come in. So I don't know if that's a joke or whether he can't hear me.
Hi, everybody.
Eva's yonder. Hey, Gold Panner. And Eva's, we were out for 2 days and she's feeling a little under the weather, so probably will not be a tinfoil hat report tonight. No audio. Okay. Hold on a minute. Let's see.
Make sure it's actually plugged in.
Oh, let's see if this. I was getting a response on that one. Okay, Gold Panner says he can hear you. There's audio, but it's, yeah, that's because that stupid microphone there is the only one that YouTube seems to be able to find. I don't know why. Yeah, exactly, Chris. That's the one that I've selected on YouTube, the USB 2.0 mic. And I went to the default and then went back to it just to make sure I cycled that. So I don't know what the hell's going on. But since you're hearing me, I know it's switched to the wrong mic, not that that mic itself is actually dead. You know, it's just not hooking up into the system. Don't ask me why. This should be. That's it right there. It's plugged in. So, I don't know. Electrons. Can't live with them, can't live without them. Anyhow, so here we are again. Oh, Ellen, how's it going? It's been a busy week. Went to camp on Wednesday. Did some panning and stuff. That black poison, I haven't got a video up on it. Eve and I were gone 2 days this week, out in the field, doing some prospecting and staking. And the picture you saw in the thumbnail was from where we were up running around. So it was really pretty up there. It really was. It was much busier than we're used to because usually we don't see anybody. This was the first day, Saturday was the first day that they opened the gates up in the Elkhorns there to the high country.
Four-wheelers.
The four-wheels were everywhere. I guess part of it is people just like to go cruising, but also they're looking for elk sheds.
Yeah.
Because the antlers, I guess, are pretty expensive. So there's people going out there. David says hi, Eva.
Hello.
And so we were doing that. And I got the video edited from this weekend, but it was too late to upload it today. I'll probably do it tomorrow. Let's see. I've got more stuff on staking and all this stuff. In general, that was a it was a pretty good weekend, except Rubago had a few issues at first. When we went over to camp, I noticed when I was climbing long grades, they started starving for fuel. Now, because, I don't know if you folks know this, but those old mechanical fuel pumps on the old V8s, with the newer fuels that have ethanol and stuff like that in them, oxygenation agents, which vaporize at a much lower temperature than gasoline does, they tend to vapor lock pretty bad. And down in Tucson, it's pretty hot, so if you put an electric fuel pump between the gas tank and the engine, then it pushes fuel into the fuel pump to stop the vapor locking issue. Hello, Ethan. And so I've actually got an electric fuel pump and a mechanical fuel pump. So when we first started out, it started crapping out a little bit. And I tried bypassing the electric and just going straight mechanical, and that was even worse. Apparently my mechanical fuel pump also screwed up, but I never noticed it.
Well, one thing they used to do with the old trucks is turn them around and back up, and they won't do that. Get the fuel tank higher than the fuel pump.
Yeah, no problem. But anyhow, so we got to Townsend and picked up a new electric fuel pump. It was running, I say it's just full power well, not full power, but sustained power. It was kind of crapping out a little bit. So I said, well, it's frickin' hot. So let's just see if it'll get us to the first stopping point. Then we're going to be there for several hours, and I can replace it when the engine's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you'll see in the video, got us that close. Not close enough. And I was on this grade where I was kind of blocking the road a bit. Luckily, the quads could get past me. But anyhow, hot mufflers. And there's also something sharp on the other side. I'm not sure. It's either a piece of sheet metal sticking out or maybe the brake cable has been cut and clamped. So I'm not sure. Anyhow, not my favorite thing working on hot vehicles. But got it fixed. Got up to the top of the little grade we were at, parked for lunch, which you'll see in the... Did I have a fight with the shark? No.
You should have seen it. There was this grizzly bear. It was a giant monster.
And there is a grizzly bear over at Capital Sports.
Stuff.
I'll get a picture of that sometime. That's a beast. I would not want to have to shoot that sucker to save my life because I wouldn't be that confident unless they had like a ferret, M240, eat lead. But anyhow, we got up on top of that and ate lunch, got over to the first mine and explored that situation, took some samples, and staked it all. Training to be a surgeon? I hope not. I don't like blood. And paradoxically, other people's freaks me out more than my own. But anyhow, so we did that and then continued on probably 2-3 miles roughly to the next spot. And some of the roads were less than ideal. Some were actually pretty easy. You need to drive a Kia on the darn thing. A little bumpy, but nevertheless not hard. But it was kind of fun to actually use the Bago for what it was built for, which is getting tools, people, and comfortable accommodations over bumpy, hard to get roads to where we were going. And that was basically what, even when we were in Idaho, it's just freaking washboards. It was horrible. Worse than what we were doing last weekend. But 40 miles of washboard road takes a toll. Whereas this, just slow it down. First gear, 4-wheel drive, just crawl over stuff. No big deal. So once fuel pump was switched out, everything went pretty smoothly. Didn't see any grizzly bears. Didn't see any elk. Saw one deer. Didn't see any elk sheds. Apparently, the antlers are worth quite a bit of money. So, the first mine, I did some panning of the dumps, and the white material you see in that thing, there was actually some decent little flaky gold. The other stuff, the red stuff, just was real fine gold. And so the next one, the gold value wasn't much in that mine anyhow. It's silver and zinc with some lead and copper historically. So I didn't even bother panning that one, just took samples and put up the stakes. And carting 4x4 stakes across mountains sucks when you're an old user like me. Not my ideal thing, but what the hell, take my time. I'm holding up okay. So that was basically our week. The results at Montana Tech, pretty much what we were expecting in general. We still haven't gotten the samples they did the gravity separation on and sent them off for assay yet. So I don't have any results. But I'm suspicious we're going to have to do something besides gravity separation, just due to the tests I've done so far. It's like, I don't think what they were doing would hold the gold that much. Be interesting to see. They had a micron mill wave table over here that they tried some on, and they got a better concentration than my concentrator did in terms of the grade. So it'll be interesting to see not so much the grade of the concentrate as the losses. Okay, I would expect a good concentrate under the circumstances to be running 4 or 5 ounces to the ton. And that's what we're showing. But if you just concentrated the iron, that's about what you're going to get. So Coulter, hopefully this week I'm going to be testing your magnetic separator. Jim and I tomorrow, we're going to be working on Jimmy's impact mill, trying a few things while we've got it available to do some tests, to get a few parameters nailed down and a few modifications figured out in terms of what does what when you do what. And one thing I was thinking is, the vertical plate with the angle iron deflector on it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we loosen that bolt and then just brought that plate out a little bit and spaced it, that'd be the same as moving that deflector out, like adding. So that would be an adjustment there. And I've got a piece of 1/8 inch. That's all I had over Pacific Steel this morning, was 1/8 inch. But it's wide enough that we can make a deflected plate 6 inches long, and it'll last long enough for what we need to do.
We have a couple pieces of corduroy in the trailer at my house. We can look at that.
Yeah.
We could about
We need
6
5
inch
by
wide.
6. Then we need 5 by 6.
Well, we could look at it, because we might be able to cut them out of that.
Yeah. So we'll be trying a few things on the impact mill, and so that'll be another video. Jimmy, I'm planning on coming up this weekend to deliver the mill. If that works with you, maybe my daughter may come by on Saturday. She's heading up. She's supposed to be in Helena on Saturday. We might stop by there if you want an extra person just kind of hanging around for Saturday to go fishing, and then we could head on up to Helena Saturday evening. Even I would probably head out there Friday evening, Friday afternoon, and show up, and we could have dinner. We'll bring some steaks with us so that you can cook them. We'll provide the meat, you do the cooking. You're damn good. So, anyhow. Yeah.
Do it for a day of fishing.
Yeah. I look a little tired. There's been some issues that I've been dealing with that took a little more out of me than would normally be the case, but that seems to be resolving okay. So yeah, I could use a little R&R. I've been just trying to get so many things done. So, for example, getting some testing done on your mill before we give it to you. It's been very, very helpful. Again, thank you very much. And I think you'll be really happy with it. I'll call you up probably tomorrow to discuss details. And I'll talk with my daughter and see. She's supposed to show up here in Helena Saturday afternoon, and she's supposed to like check in at Black Sandy at 2:30 in the afternoon or something. So we'll see what we can do with that. But she really likes to fish, so if we can get in one good day fishing, the rest is gravy. In terms of she's a photographer too, an amateur photographer. And, I mean, there's some great architecture here in Helena. Buildings downtown are amazing.
Oh, there's some neat buildings up at Marysville right up here too. If you drive up in the town of Marysville in the mountain up there.
Is that up
Some
to 12?
No, you go out Lincoln Road and just after you get past Silver City Saloon out there, sits by itself, you take a left on Marysville Road, and it's asphalt all the way up to the town.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people who live up there, but there's some old historic original buildings. Actually, one of the original churches in this whole area is still there. It was built in 1860 something.
We'll have to see also. I think it's Holter Lake downstream from Hauser. I think it's supposed to be really good for perch too.
Yeah.
So we may be trying there. David, maybe Eva made it look like an accident.
Coming in.
Hey, whatever. Both of the mine sites that we were at, we had cell phone reception. In one case, it wasn't surprising. I mean, you could see 50 miles, 180 degrees. But the other one, it was just now. There was only one gap down canyon, and I guess there's a cell tower lined up
down there.
I have no idea how it worked, but yeah, I was calling my my brother from each location. Just, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And the first time it was so funny. I called Randy and I said, yeah, I'm up on top of this mountain. I can see for 50 miles in every direction. And then they said, shut up.
I don't want to hear about it.
Oh, yeah, he was definitely jealous. But anyhow, so my daughter will be here next week. So we'll be doing a lot of just touristy stuff. We've got a couple doctor's appointments. So it's going to be really busy. Don't know how much I'm going to get to do. Not the week we're in now, but the week after that. Starting this coming weekend, Bonnie will be here, I think from Saturday through Friday or something. So we'll do what we can. Jim has brought some show and tell. Oh, you've also got truck. Did you want to see if you can get the video onto one of these computers?
We can put that up after the meet sometime.
Okay. He's also got
that's going to do. Yeah, I did take some video, just some short stuff in the mines up there, a couple of them, and kind of the area that we're working in. We did get up for, slide over a little bit, I'll get in here and say hi to everybody. Yeah. And hello, everybody. We did get up and spent 2 days in the field this past week, which was awesome, great. Got some good, a lot of samples, got a lot of stuff sent off for assays. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that here in a couple weeks. And we're hoping for the best. A lot of the samples we got look really, really good. And we covered a pretty big area around behind the mines, back farther in and stuff, and continued to find what we were looking for, scarn minerals and copper. And the area is kind of getting bigger and bigger. So it looks good for a big mine.
Yep. So we'll have some video there. He wasn't able to upload the video via the internet to my computer, but we're going to try and see if his
With the
Smartphone
Wi-Fi, I think I
will
can do it. here.
Wi-Fi directly to one of my
Yeah, I think I
computers,
can Wi-Fi it and move it.
and we can do that. So we'll give it a shot. And he's got some pretty rocks for us to see today. And I don't know if Jason from Flower Gold Wizards is out there, but he sent a little care package, and there's this really nice. This is the biggest polycrystalline garnet I've ever seen in my life. Until Jim gave me this.
I got a lot of those.
So, Jason, you've been beat. His stones are bigger than yours. Chris says any gem quality garnet?
No. Well, yeah, I did give Eva one, Chris. She's got it here. She hit it already, I think.
No, got it over there, okay?
Oh,
No,
there
I
it is.
didn't.
Yeah,
There's a couple of little crystals on that one that are actually very pretty. How good they are if you cut them out of there, I don't know, but that was two of the nicest ones that I've seen in the stuff we were playing in.
yeah, I'm going to see if I can't eat some geese next fall when they're legal. My mom had a couple of garnets about this big that she said my dad found up in Canada when he was doing field work. But those were single crystal garnets.
Great state of Jefferson. Thanks for coming.
Howdy. So
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed you last week. It's just the way things go. But I'll hand you these, Keith, and you can kind of.
Okay, you describe them.
Well, that's some copper ore.
chalcopyrite
Yep, that's
there?
all chalcopyrite. That's really full.
And malachite.
And malachite.
Let's see if we can get the.
The light just right.
It looks a little better when it's shaded like this.
Yeah, there you can see a little bit. Yeah, that rock is a lot of chalcopyrite.
Yeah, it's just too bright. Maybe the best.
That's more malachite.
And here's just some malachite. Yeah, that works really better. You can see the green of the malachite there. Not gem quality malachite.
No, this is all, oxides, but
This turquoise?
it's probably mostly malachite, and then we've got, of course, some azurite.
Let's see. There we go. See the nice bluish color there. It's more like a turquoise or chrysocolla color instead of azurite. We've got azurite.
And azurite on garnet. We were cracking a lot of garnet open up there, and it was just, the colors were awesome.
Man,
Yeah, that light is just,
kind of a pain in the butt. Yeah, I don't think that's helpful.
that ain't helping, is it?
No.
How about
Right about there is as good as we
for
get.
now?
Yeah.
Let that go right there.
Well, we're probably getting light from up
Yeah,
there.
that could
That's
be.
probably it. But there you go. Azurite
Yeah.
and garnet.
Really pretty.
Okay, what else we got?
Oh, I don't know. We got that pyrite with iron. That I don't know how well that shows up pretty good. Some pretty heavy,
That's some pretty massive.
massive pyrite
Yeah.
on iron on back in behind the copper there. And then I don't know. We got some granite with
more malachite.
malachite
Yeah, that light seems to work
and
pretty
quartz. That's kind of right at an edge of quartz and granite with
good.
malachite.
Quartz stringer there. Yeah.
So I thought I'd just give you a little bit of show on some rock. Here's some with some iron, I guess.
Hello, Scotty. Did Clean Mining give you some really good information, Scotty? I'll tell you, if we get more details, we'll giving them out. But yeah, that's an interesting thing. The spiral, we weren't using it, but it was interesting to see. Mosley table, again, most times I think it would work fine. Not on Montana B. I'm betting against it. I think Montana B is going to win on that one. I'll bet you the recovery is less than 50%. And that would suck. But that's what I'm expecting on that. Now the flotation, they're supposed to send us a proposal for flotation testing, and we're very likely to do flotation testing. Also, I got a large stack of papers on flotation of iron oxides, so that was interesting.
Leverite? Yeah, there's plenty of leverite up there.
Yeah, there's always plenty of leverite, but yeah. And so anyhow, that's the people at Montana Tech are really, really nice people. Okay, they're very friendly, very helpful, etc. I can't emphasize that enough. And we'll see. By the way, Jim, they may have an assay, fire assay class for certification next fall.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to get it together.
Well, that would be a good idea, and I think you might be surprised how many people are going to try to sign up for that.
Well, even I would like to take it.
I wouldn't mind it either, because that's something in the back of my mind the last few years is having at least a small assay lab at home, or rig it up in either a small container or something that you can just be able to do some testing before, like we do, before you send it to, bunch of assays out.
If you could put it together in a 10-foot ocean shipping container,
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
That would be
small,
sweet.
Small container. Then, put in good ventilation. You're able to open the whole end up on some of them. You can open both ends on them if you want fresh air.
I haven't taken a look yet, Chris. I've been really, really busy. Getting ready for this trip. Just look at what I got to do to get plane stakes. First, you got to go buy 5 10-foot 4x4s, cut them in half. Now, the 5 10-foot 4x4s is $155 now, just for challenge. And get that and get everything else ready to go. And the truck was giving problems. Get all the paperwork ready, etc., etc. Yeah, Ethan, the difference between a tutorial would be like, and a class, be kind of like how to drive a car fast versus the Bob Bondurant School of High Performance Driving. It's a lot better if you got an expert actually showing you how to do it. There's a lot of nuance to real fire assay that's not necessarily obvious.
I want to get certified.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Paper.
Not using SMB. Sodium metabisulfate, I guess. Let's see. Hello, Rick. How's it going? Oh, I'm still working on the plans, the modified plans for that too. One more thing to do. Yeah, next 2 weeks is just, I'm not going to have time to sleep real well. If they get it together, it'll be like next fall or winter. And did he get an idea how many weeks? 6 weeks or something?
He said it would be several weeks or maybe one semester. They're working on a full certification class.
Several weeks to one semester, full certification class is what, she was discussing that with, that was Rick, right?
Yeah.
And I was
They're still in the
with
planning
Gary.
stages. They're trying to get the big mining companies interested in giving them the stuff and, getting it back together.
Get some backing.
So, and again, what video we can from that. But yeah, that's one reason I'm so tired here, because looking at that stupid impact mill, you know, you want to make one little change. The 5-inch channel iron, while it looked like it was adequate to mount everything easily, because the webs kind of taper up, it shrinks the available flat surface, and that's, I think, just a little bit. Oh, that didn't work.
There we go. Well, it took some of that shine from behind us out.
Oh, I see. That. Okay. And
Playing with lighting.
so I think I'm going to go with 6-inch channel iron as the standard, and of course that means other things change a little bit, which means everything's got to change some. You know, all the plans have little details. We also found a weak spot on the leg.
Yeah, but
That was easy to fix.
that wasn't critical to the
Yeah.
disassembly.
No, but I've still got to diagram it.
Right.
So that's
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah.
Every time I do
Right.
anything, it's like, now I got to come up with a
Yeah.
new diagram, change.
Well, that's why we wanted time to play with it too. Is to run it, look it over, take it apart,
Yeah. And
you know,
I'm-
and then play with size like we were doing, sizing material. And
it worked out pretty.
it worked really well. I was impressed. Man, nice and smooth, clean.
Yeah, just a little bit.
It's
of
fairly
moisture.
quiet too, considering like that chain mill is twice as noisy.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
man, it sounds like you're throwing rocks through a lawnmower
I wonder
on that chain mill.
if that's because the housing
I don't
is so
know.
thin.
Maybe that
Yeah.
could very well be
That's-
with the double plating.
That's like
Yeah.
1/8
Yeah.
tube, whereas there's a 1/4 thick.
Double plated.
Hey Cherokee, how's it going? And so anyhow, it's just been crazy. We got a topic tonight. Jim's going to talk about scarns, and are you definitely not doing the tinfoil hat tonight, little one?
No, I've been busy with my own research project.
Eva's not going to have a tinfoil hat, and well, that's great, Cherokee. Uh, Nine hours, huh? Yep. So, it'll be interesting to see what we get from clean mining there. Say, I suspect that the guys at Montana Tech will have more pull than I do. You know? Yeah. So I'm kind of leaving that to Montana. As you can see, I'm more of a nexus of information than a generator of stuff all the time. It's pretty much all I can do to take care of everything that's being thrown at me at times. But I'm having a good time. So yeah, we'll find out. We'll get that figured out by end of summer, I'm pretty sure, what the heck the clean mining system is, and how easy it is to utilize it, whether we have to buy chemicals from them or whether it's something we can easily duplicate, or what the deal is. As far as I'm concerned, I'd be just happy to buy it from them as long as it's a reasonable price. Especially if they get it permitted, because then, their system will be permitted theoretically. Anyhow, back to scarns. So basically, a scarn is from the contact zone where you have igneous rocks and carbonate rocks, like limestone and dolomite and granite. And it creates these silica carbonate rocks, which then have a lot of minerals associated with it. Now, in this area here, we have something called the Boulder Batholith, which was a huge for here. There's a lot bigger out there in the rest of the world. And then there's other little batholiths, which are just magma that was injected and then cooled in place. And so there's more of those around. Those the general method that we got, the mineralization suitable for mining. And some of those minerals get cooked out of the pre-existing rocks. So they get heated by the intrusives. Some of it comes from, as the intrusives cool, water kind of condenses out and brings minerals with it, liberates them and such. And so that's it. So what, hey David.
Hey, Dave.
I'm gonna kind of turn it over to Jim right now to describe the scarns that he's seen around here and the difference between a gold scarn and a copper scarn. In other words, one where you're generally going to have economic gold mineralization versus economic copper mineralization. They're often close by each other, but they're not usually in the exact same place because they precipitate under somewhat different conditions.
Temperature conditions is the main separation. You can have, copper carrying gold, but you can also have, if you can locate a copper gold scarn, which is pretty common to this area. Both of these are fairly common to this area. We've got a copper gold scarn, and then we've got basically a gold scarn. And there's a lot of similarities, but there's some differences. And when you start to be able to pick out the individual minerals of rock in the area, you can tell the difference. A copper gold scarn is more likely to create some bigger placers below it than an actual gold scarn. I was talking with Keith earlier. There is an instance here in this area of a gold scarn that created tremendous placer and big gold, flaky gold. Go ahead, Keith.
I just saw some of this. I'm just gonna read this thing. This is from
You gotta
New
keep
Scientist.
that for later.
This is a reputable. Oh wait a minute! I need to get dressed for this one. Excuse me, little one. I'm gonna kick your butt. Okay, everyone. This is from New Scientist. It happened to be on there when I was looking for the hard working reading and then mining guys. I wanted to monitor so I could comment. But anyhow, get this from New Scientist. Pigs can breathe oxygen via their rectum, so humans probably can too. I'm not exactly sure what
I haven't read the article yet.
Are we going to test this theory?
But I presume blowing smoke up your ass,
Might have something
if it
to do
was
with
oxygen rich, might say, I don't know. I just couldn't. I couldn't do up with that. Anyhow,
And by
once
the
you
way,
get up off the floor, back to the dude over here with his
you
cigar.
realize that by usurping the tinfoil hard hat, you have angered the goddess of tinfoil hattery.
Yeah, oh, that isn't that clear
You
either.
must make suitable sacrifices.
How about dinner?
Basically, if you're, in an area as gold, panning gold and placer type work, or you're running your metal detector, or you're going to go look for hard rock, these are the things that you kind of want to be paying attention for. Is the contact areas. Basically, the scarn is a contact between your silicate rock and your carbonate rock. Your silicate rock could be the granite or granodiorite, and your limestone, or in this case, possibly marble. And if you're over in a gold scarn, chances are you're going to be in more dolomite. The temperature differences are a little bit different. In your copper scarn, you're going to have the magnet. You're going to have the iron, of course. You almost have to have iron in most cases to have gold. So you're going to have your magnetite, your hematite, possibly iron ore. In a copper gold scarn, you're going to usually see your garnet. You're going to see epidote or olivine, possibly serpentine, your calcite, and of course quartz. You're going to see those things are I'm trying to keep this fairly simple for you guys. You'll have to do some of your own homework beyond this, but it's things to pay attention to if you're walking at the hillsides and breaking rocks and looking at them. Those are really the garnet, the epidote, the calcite, the quartz, iron, and granite are the things you'd want to pay attention to, where those all are in relation to where you're finding gold possibly, or where you're looking for gold. If you get over into the gold scarn side of it, you got a sulfide and an oxide replacement deposit basically, and it's going to be the granodiorite is going to be more of a mafic diorite. It's going to have heated more, and it's going to be more magnesium. Like I say, the limestone, instead of marble here, it's probably going to be a lot closer to dolomite over here.
With mafic, I presume you're going to see a lot more of the black minerals in
Correct, darker
it,
color.
and less of the quartz.
Yep, correct.
All right.
Yep, you're going to see more quartz more likely in the copper gold scarn areas than you will if you get into a true gold scarn. You'll still have your iron. Your magnetite in a gold scarn can be excessive magnetite, so that sometimes can be a hint, not always, the definitive answer, but it can definitely lead you to, massive magnetite areas. Can be an indicator that it's a true gold scarn. You'll still have your hematite. The thing that you'll notice different here is you'll pick up arsenic and sulfur as ore minerals that don't exist in a copper gold scarn for the most part. The arsenic and sulfur will be higher in a true gold scarn system. Bismuth, of course, gold, your telluriums, and silver. And usually a gold scarn, like I say, does not create a huge placer, but there is instances where when they did create a placer, they were massive placers that had a lot of big coarse gold in them. And, for the metal detecting type guys, that could be, something like this could be up on the side of a mountain and you could find big, big nuggets, and big gold.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that first
I'm with you, Chris. I'm trying not to get too far out for the guys that are trying to just understand, start to learn. This is a starting point to learn. Because yes, you can there's tin scarns, there's places they find aluminum that's almost like a scarn, the geology. You can take this in a lot of different directions, but these two, like in this area of Montana and probably Idaho for the most part, and going into Alaska, be similar, British Columbia. These are going to be the two that are going to kind of be the ones you'll more than likely find or be able to locate based on the intrusive granite or granodiorite, your limestone or marble against your granite, your garnet, your epidote, which is obvious when you see an epidote or olivine. It's very dark green, kind of spiny. If you crack it in a fracture, it's pretty.
Isn't serpentine the same?
Serpentine sometimes can actually be in the rock like a vein.
Yeah, but it's a dark green.
But it's a dark green also, yeah, forest type green. And you'll have in your ore minerals in the copper gold scarn, or your chalcopyrite, your pyrite, galena, your gold, of course, chalcocite, cooperite, silver, malachite, azurite, chrysocolla, and sphalerite could possibly show up here with your zinc, which is a zinc sulfur with chalcopyrite and pyrrhotite.
Pyrrhotite,
and your tungsten or scheelite and moly. A lot of the times this will have quite a bit of moly. If you did a test, you'd have a considerable amount of moly or scheelite in it, or both. And that's what I'm running into with my thing that we're working on, the mines we're working on right now, is pretty much kind of this assemblage of stuff. Where if you get over here, normally in a true gold scarn, your copper, your zinc, and your lead are usually fairly minute, if they're there at all. They may not. You may have absolutely no copper in there, or no zinc, or a combination of none of that. So that's a good indicator that it's actually a gold scarn also, because it'll have a really, really low zinc level. Yeah, wolframite too. Yeah, Chris, I agree. Like I say, I was trying to just keep this on a beginner type level, and it's still complicated, but if it gives you a point to start doing a little bit of your own homework, and it's another reason to understand why you're finding gold, in an area. Where's the gold coming from? And it'll be this scarn, but what scarn? And that'll tell you a lot of what else to hunt for in that area to find more possibly, or find a possible mine. Dolomite, depending on the dolomite, Adam, I mean, some of it, a lot of times if you take it, Keith and I were just talking about this, if you put acid on it like you do limestone, it doesn't fizz like limestone. But if you scratch it and put acid there, it'll fizz where you scratched it. And yes, if you break it, it will have cleavage areas in it. It's kind of almost like somewhat of a gem, if you can get a clean face to look at on the dolomite.
That should be the cleavage of the dolomite.
Yeah, it does have a clean face if you can, 90-degree faces or.
Yeah, it's actually a rhombohedron instead of a cube, so to speak. But it will have
Right.
sharp faces.
Right. It'll be offset a little
close
bit.
to a 90-degree angle, but not all of them, and not precisely 90.
The acid test, like Keith was mentioning, is probably the best one to decide if it's limestone or marble, or if it's actually dolomite.
Well, the other thing that's real quick is just scratch it with a knife.
Right.
Any one of those three will scratch fairly readily with a knife.
Yeah.
It's not a minor scratch. It gouges
Right.
pretty
You can
good.
cut into it, so it's.
And it's reasonably soft. Now, one thing I did too, if you take a piece of brass rod like brazing rod and you grind it to a point, it will scratch calcite, just barely.
Okay.
But it won't scratch anything harder than calcite. So that was an interesting thing. I used to make these little testings where I'd have a point of brass, one of steel, and one of quartz, so I could test various hardnesses. And then I actually took and put a streak plate on one side and a magnet on the other too. So I made a little pendant out of it. And so I could, with a magnet, you just hold it next to the rock, and if it swings over, that's a lot more delicate test than if you try it with your hand.
Exactly. Because sometimes it's hard to tell, is it really magnetic or not?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I said that's one thing that might be something I'd make in the future too. But it was a very cool little thing. I don't know how I lost it.
But I thought I would pick kind of this subject tonight a little bit because I'm working on a copper gold scarn situation more. The gold is what led me to the copper, and really at this point, this is probably going to be a copper mine at some point. But, Keith, on the other hand, was working with the Montana B ore, and it's a little more closer related vein system to the gold scarn.
Yeah, it's really heavy.
Right? You've got arsenic and you've got sulfur, and
not much sulfur now.
not a lot of sulfur.
It used to be sulfur,
Right.
Not much arsenic.
Early. Well, anytime you're measuring in 1,000 parts per million, that's a lot
Right,
of
but that's an indicator because over here, the arsenic numbers are almost non-existent,
Mm-hmm.
in the assays. So it kind of starts to tell you a little bit about the rock and the anomaly you're working at or around. And it gives you things to pay attention to on the ground as far as certain rock colors and things that can indicate, hey, this might be a good area for really paying attention for gold. Because the copper and gold in a lot of cases will be relatively close together.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a big copper body, and off to the left or the right of it, within maybe less than 100 yards in some cases, you will have the gold anomaly right there also. It was just two different temperatures, and the gold may have migrated farther against the limestone. they're in the same areas. It's things to pay attention to when you're in the field that, hey, I see this over here. I need to go walk this area a little more and do some, get the metal detector on the ground, because you may actually find a new find that in the old days, the only thing the guys really had was their eyes and hauling rock into an assay office in town. Short of breaking some rock up and panning it or something. They didn't have the technology and the things and the knowledge that we know now.
The Comstock load was walked over several times.
Again,
there were gold mining in the area,
right?
And then, but the mineralogy was such that they didn't. That's a ugly rock, and it turns out, well, that ugly rock was like a lot of silver in it,
right?
And once somebody recognized what it was, then you had one of the largest silver mines in the world.
Well, and Butte copper kind of went that way. See, Rocker, which is right out of Butte, those drainages coming up to Butte were all placer. And then they found some hard rock gold on the top. And when the gold's petered out, majority of those miners sold out and left. And what they got into is a lot of copper, scarn, and some silver, a lot of silver actually.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know anything about it, and it wasn't really readily identifiable unless you had, some knowledge of geology. And they sold their gold mines out for pennies on the dot, for literally nothing, and walked away. And the guys who started rounding up all those claims became some of the wealthiest men in the world.
Are you trying to tell me that rapacious capitalists would take advantage of the ignorance of the poor proletariat?
Yeah, imagine
and
that.
Actually purchase valuable properties for pennies on the dollar,
Yeah,
because of their greed and evilness.
well,
Okay.
and being able to identify what it was. Once they knew what it was, they kept it quiet and made sure they could buy out as many mines as possible.
That's the difficult
in order to, and everybody at the time, I mean, some of the notes that I've read on it, they were thinking, why the hell do these guys even want this? There's no gold left, or we can't find any. Well, it wasn't the gold.
Did they have
were
a
looking.
cover story?
It wasn't. I don't know, but it wasn't the gold they were looking for in the end.
I'm thinking that if some group was out there just buying a bunch of claims, then the story would either be they'd have somebody saying these people are just crazy back easters or whatever, and we're making we're selling for nothing.
Right. You've got
Or
investors and we're bilking them.
They'd come up with some story, because otherwise somebody would go, well, wait just a minute. There's a lot of money being laid out here, and why?
Well, I imagine once they caught on to it, the values got higher and higher till they got the last guys out. But
yeah, I don't know. That's if you read mining history, you see some weird stuff go on.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Yeah. But like in our copper area here, the history went up to about 1891, at which point that was it. The U.S. economy collapsed, the silver price collapsed, and so did copper and gold and at the time, they were looking for gold hard because gold was money. But this mine that we're over here that we're working on right now got left in history somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Because there should have been drill holes in there in the 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s, and nobody in that whole area ever drilled a damn hole.
Kind of like low tabulations in Maricopa County, huh?
Yeah.
Just disappeared. Yeah. Okay. It happens. There's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Anyhow. So that's basically. Do we have any questions now?
Yeah.
You know how that usually gets things going. We've only been doing it an hour. Certainly we have to have some kind of question.
I have a question. Did anybody watch the newest video? And does anyone know what kind of junk car that is?
No, I haven't had a chance to upload it. Although next week there will be a quiz. We'll have bragging rights or something. There is a vehicle, or what's left of a vehicle, in my next video, which I haven't got up yet. And we're not sure what it is. So if you can do the year and the make of that car,
And prove it.
put it in the comments. First one, I don't know, gets an attaboy. I'm not sure. I don't have any merch yet, so I can't really send you merch. But yeah, you get bragging rights. But yeah, I am kind of curious. I think it's 1930s, but I really don't know. Chris says, my blind guess is a 38 Buick. You may be right.
That's what I said, Chris. That's exactly the same thing I said when I looked at it. I think a 38 Buick, but I don't. I'd have to do some more homework, try to, look at pictures.
I don't know, but anyhow, I'd say the video should be up tomorrow. I just didn't have time to upload it. It's all compiled and ready to go. It just has to be uploaded. So we'll do that. And Flower Gold Wizards, I'll see about doing my video on panning that black poison. And I think I've got it down reasonably efficient. Now, you have to understand that as a hard rock guy,
Get in there.
I don't worry about purity in the pan. I worry about recovery. I don't want to get much in the way of losses. So that's my focus. Because I'm just going to smelt it down anyway in general. Either that or you build it up enough to where when you do get a line, you separate a line up at the top of the pan, it's virtually pure gold. So, do you have a dolomite sample?
I don't.
Yes, I
You
do. As a
probably
matter
do.
of fact,
Yeah, I was going to say you might.
down
I
in the
don't.
beluga. That could be. That could be. Tell you what, why don't you chat with Jim here, and I'll go get some dolomite.
All right.
Yeah, there's a couple of little pieces I grabbed that are in the
And what?
console in
Okay.
the drink cup thing. I got a couple of pretty little white pieces.
Hey, Robert, thanks for coming. Yeah, fire off some questions, guys, and we'll keep going. Keith will be back in just a moment.
Yeah, you
We'll
watch.
see what we can do there. But
He
I
was supposed to have that video up so that everybody could see it. Oh
figured I'd go over the scarns a little bit tonight because that is the normal formations that most of you are going to see where you're finding gold or you will find gold. You could take the veining system and the scarns into a lot of different, it could get deeper and deeper. The geology can get to be, a full-time job to learn it. When you get into polymetallic vein systems and things like that. But those that I had up here tend to be the two that you see the most and the most identifiable if you start cracking and breaking rocks and looking at the composition of rocks on a hillside or a whole hill or all the way around the hill, two different drainages. As far as the copper mine, Chris, is that what you're asking, the magnesium level? Not as much as if you're in the actual gold scarn, where you get into the mafic rock, your magnesium levels will go quite a bit higher. And as far as often assay, I can't remember because magnesium to me wasn't the big important thing there. I'll have to pull that stuff up and have it here next time or something. Oh, Adam's working on his dolomite. All right, I'm with you there. All you need is a little piece, Adam. It wouldn't take very much to play with. Thanks, Chris. You're right. The dolomite, the fizz between that and the calcite's going to be less. Well, there must be a little spot you can break a piece out. Or lay out, yeah, just lay out there with your dropper and scratch and test. Nobody will know what you're doing. Or they'll all be wondering what you're doing. Okay, Chris, if you lick it after you do that, what's the taste difference? Okay, see, I'm learning too. That one I don't like to lick rocks if I can help it. Gold, I don't mind plugging in my mouth and cleaning it.
You would have been arsenal pyrite ore.
No, I don't like popping crap in my mouth.
Is that time in the army, huh? Okay. So, I have a sample. Actually, I don't know. That's acting more like quartz, really. Let's see. No, there it is. Okay, let's see if we can do this.
That might work.
Oh, let's try this.
Maybe some more backlighting to get rid of that.
Yeah, let's see.
That might work.
That's a little better.
Yeah, you can see the scratch. I can right there.
Okay, so here, if you take and scratch it with a knife blade, you can see it scratches fairly easily. Okay. Now, let's move the computer so it doesn't get acid on. I bet you that's even worse than a soda.
Yeah.
Now, I was looking for something to put a little dropper bottle in, and this is a waterproof match case that you get over at Sportsman's Warehouse. This is just the dropper bottle for Eva's e-liquid, and inside it is a little battery acid from a local shop, and I have no idea whether or not this is going to show up well. And I'm kind of, but if you put the acid on that, it fizzes basically only on the scratches. You see, that's not fizzing very much at all. And that's dolomite. Now, if this was calcite, this was marble or limestone, it'd just be fizzing to beat heck. So, and this is white, but it can be in any color. It can be gray, it can be whatever.
Right.
So, the color is not diagnostic. The hardness and the resist, fizzing a little bit on the scratch, but not next to the scratch, is pretty diagnostic of dolomite. If everything just fizzes to beat hell, then it would be limestone.
Yep.
And then make sure that you've got it double contained, because that leaks inside your pack or whatever. Life sucks.
Right now, Robert, on this mine here, we've got an exploration permit. We're waiting for the final signature on our permitting for doing some test trenches on the hillsides, opening up 2 more adits, possibly 3, and rebuilding the portals and securing them. and we have to put a bridge in across the creek going in there and fixing the road. And then we're trying to identify, we've already got one drill site identified because of what we found. And we're going to try to identify 4 or 5 more drill sites. So we may be doing some electronics on the ground up there yet. And we've been looking at satellite research and some other things that are kind of coming alive here. Satellite research hasn't been used in the United States a lot, but we were dealing with some companies out of Australia and that are having pretty high success rates on rock identification from satellite. So we're looking at a little bit of, a few things there. They've been using it in South Africa and Australia for the last couple of years, and it seems to be working.
Can you explain that again? I was looking at your thing.
Satellite imagery of rock changes.
Just the differentiation.
Yeah, they can, believe it or not, from a satellite.
Yeah.
We used, on this first test, we used a NASA satellite, we used a Russian. They can identify the garnet from the granite from the limestone.
Yeah.
It was interesting as hell.
Multi-spectral.
Because even where we had limestone over the top of granite intrusion, they were able to, identify lines outside of, you need to carry claims out to here. It was kind of a whole new science to the guys I'm dealing with, but it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I hate it.
So we're trying to put as much science into it before we put the money into the ground for drilling, to hopefully make all the drill holes hit, because then it's going to be definitely a mine if the drill holes come in with numbers that we want to see. Get that light off again and we'll have it.
Oh my goodness. It's so complicated. We need a grip. You know what a grip is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my buddy's a grip. He's got a whole business doing this. Handling the lighting and the cords and the cables and the cameras. Lito, that might be possible with this new technology and what they're doing and how they've been testing it. It could lead to some really, really crazy stuff.
Stephen B., that applies to prospecting, but not to professional mining.
Yeah, well, we're doing, we're doing the prospecting and spending the money on that end of it, but when you start looking at what it costs now to drill, and now actually with what's happening in the markets with fuel and everything else, I can imagine what the next drilling operation is going to cost. So
I think we're going.
You want to try to zero in as good as you can to hope that the drill hole pays off.
Yeah, I think that we're going to enter a very unusual environment that I don't think the United States has ever seen before.
Probably not.
We had a serious inflationary time in the 70s, but I think it's going to get past that. And it's going to be difficult to predict because you won't know what the price of gold is going to be and you don't know what the price of other things are going to be. So it makes it kind of hard to figure out how it's going to balance out.
The contracting will have to be pretty instantaneous, get a price and then sign the contract and move.
Hey, Lito, that's my nickname. So, I say, I have no idea what's going to go on here, but we'll just keep playing the game. A lot of the stuff that I've been
I'll see on camera.
when I'm looking at prospects right now to explore and find new one state, which is what the next video is about, 2 different prospects. One of the things that I'm considering is currently the regulatory environment would be very, very difficult to work in, but I don't expect that to last.
I don't either. I think,
And then I think the precious metals are going to take off.
well, I think you need resources to have an economy, and inevitably, you know, here in the States, we've gotten so far away from resources that in order to ever turn this around, we're going to have to go back to some reality.
Well,
we can't rely on it being mined in some other country controlled by a foreign government.
I understand, Lito, but unfortunately, the tinfoil goddess is not feeling too well right
Yeah.
now. So she's pretty much out of action for the night. She's listening, though. And if we get anything wrong, she will correct us. But I already wore the tinfoil hat once tonight and got castigated for it, so I better not.
Thou shalt not incur the wrath of the tinfoil goddess.
But anyhow, my thought on the matter is now is a good time to pick up properties or prospects. And the assumption is, and again, that right now, because it's hard to permit, the price has been so steady for so long, it's going to be pretty easy to pick stuff up, and then you'd exploit later. Meanwhile, we're also working on developing the technologies for exploitation, like, you know, the impact mill, the concentrator, things like that. You know,
But mining, guys, you know, if you're really looking at mining, is a long-term game anyway. Nothing happens fast. You know, even when it goes good, it doesn't happen fast. So,
well, Lito, just send her positive energy then. Okay, I understand. Eva is not an atheist because she's been dead twice, so she doesn't pray. She talks to the home office. Okay.
No atheists in this foxhole.
And we're going to be trying to put together a video of some gym stuff too.
yeah, hopefully.
I tell you what, it's a pretty mine under there.
It's and actually I filmed a majority of it with my phone, and I didn't know if it turned out that, you know, the color, because the colors are so vivid, it's just crazy, and the video's unbelievable. So we're gonna splice them together, a couple different videos, and go through and edit it, and try to get it online. Maybe, you know, at some point this week or the next few days when Keith has time. But it is something to see, and then I'll be doing some further stuff too. Over the holiday weekend, I'm going to try to be up to Dirty Goats Mine. They're starting their placer operation, hopefully here pretty quick in the next week or two. And I'll try to get some footage up there of them running and their operation. So hopefully, you know, coming up in the near future here, Keith will have some good video coming. Hopefully we can get a few things on here to keep you entertained and keep the questions coming.
I guess it means Jeff Williams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, come on, let's go. Yeah. So anyhow, yeah, Scotty, that's interesting. The Cero resin, I think that's for the larger operations, which makes sense, because then you have to have a stripping circuit, whereas the artisanal scale system seems to use some kind of precipitant, which is a lot simpler. It's probably on a large scale a lot less economical, but on a small scale is I'll take a look at those in a second there. I just got an email from someone. But anyhow, so on an artisanal scale or a micro mining scale, I think the precipitant is probably the more effective way to do it. But on the large scale, serious mining scale, 100 tons a day, 1,000 tons a day or something. Things you never hear Keith say. Pretty much. I try and my humor is more British humor, very understated sort of thing. I think I need a pedicure. No, manicure. So let's see, I kind of manicured a couple of them there. Ever since I did that, I get to express myself in shorthand. But anyhow, so yeah, I'm not the kind of real expressive sort of guy, except that one time where I did the Prospectors Fitness University International. That one was, I tried to do more pizzazz there. Anyhow, so I'm thinking that perhaps I got a little bit of sulfuric acid on my fingers, because when I'm doing that, it's starting to hurt a little bit. So I'm going to go wash my hands and face carefully now. I'll be back shortly. I shall leave it to my assistant here to carry the load temporarily.
You go and acidify yourself.
You have to have a sense of humor to even do this. It helps to be partly crazy, probably, too. Yeah. There's days I wonder. I know one time, I don't know, probably 8 years ago, if I'd have had a case of dynamite up there, I'd have blown up every piece of equipment I had and I'd have walked out. You break down and you fix it, and you break down and you fix it, and you just, at a certain point, you kind of get a little frustrated. It's just part of it. You get over it and get back to work, and then everything's running good again, and then you're happy, and hopefully you find some gold.
Just got a sledgehammer, find something to go. Do a little impromptu therapy session.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been times.
You remember those boulders that needed to go through the grizzly?
I used to get pretty excited. I mean, I can remember throwing wrenches in the shop and things, but anymore, I just go, well, okay, get the service truck and let's see what we can do to patch it back together.
Chris says, brilliant, Keith, you're an OSHA poster. Man. Thank you, Rick. I thought that was pretty hilarious. And I think what's really impressive is you can see it's basically all one take. I just did it because it wasn't a riff. I woke up at like 3 o'clock in that morning with this thing in my head, and I was just spending hours and hours just redoing it in my head. How could I throw this? And finally, when it's time to do it, I did it.
Yeah, those are cute, Chris. Mining boom. Yeah, have you seen it?
No.
Oh, it's on YouTube. There's little videos.
Uh-huh.
Some of them are fairly dirty, but they're funnier than can be.
I was thinking more Fatal Grand.
No, they're cartoons, but it's about mining in Australia.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mining boom.
Mining boom. Okay, let's see what this is.
Season 1.
Season 1. It's got seasons?
Oh yeah, he's been doing it a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. That's the thing. They're accurate.
What is this? Eye Cutter Industries. No, it's the cartoon. Let's see. That's just an ad. Okay, that's the eye right there.
Watch out. There's some language in them. They're worth it.
I don't know.
I was gonna say, haven't they banned you, Rick, from Facebook?
Oh my god. Turn the audio of this thing.
Chris Georgie says give him the little blue wrench icon and he'll post the links.
How far away is it?
Oh, Randy, I think that area of South Carolina and some of that northern Georgia and that there's some real potential there yet. And that's the same thing we see here and in a lot of places. They kind of went for the easy picking and then on to greener pastures. They hear of a gold strike and they all pick up and left. So yeah, the chance to find some commercially workable ground, or even on a small scale, you and another friend or whatever, it exists. It's a matter of getting boots on the ground and spending the time to understand the area you're in and understand the geology and what rocks, like we were talking here earlier on the scarn, how to figure out, okay, if the copper's there, does it carry gold? And then move off to see if you can't find the gold anomalies that exist with it.
Let's see. They reopened the Hall mine over in Kershaw.
Yeah,
Kershaw, what state?
Idaho, I think.
Well, that was working on a couple of them.
South Carolina.
South Carolina, huh? That's
Yeah, I just
interesting.
read an article on another one down there too, that they were trying to permit it and having some issues with the county.
What's the commodity in the Kershaw mine? Or the Hale mine?
Gold, I think.
Is that a gold mine?
Yeah.
What's the methodology? Riser to riser? Is it like open pit heap leach, or what are they doing to get it out?
I don't know, you know, I haven't followed, you know, that down in that area.
That's got to be
that
open
much,
pit
but
heap leach then.
I know from, you know, past history of, you know, the Charlotte area and that, the amount of gold that was taken out of this Charlotte, North Carolina, and that, some of that area down there was pretty darn impressive, and some of it still has to exist. Because a lot of those miners are ones that came to Montana and that here in California for the, you know, the strikes here.
That's interesting that South Carolina is putting stuff online. That's good.
Well, that's the thing, Randy, is those similarities are going to be there in, you know, a copper gold scarn situation or just a copper scarn. But usually with the copper, it carries some gold. I mean, most of the little copper mines around here that were mined up until the 1960s and 70s, majority of them carried 3/4 of an ounce of gold per ton or half an ounce of gold per ton. And they weren't looking for gold. You know, the gold isn't what was making them the money. It was the copper they were after. But the anomalies next to those, there's gold anomalies there that need to be found and identified, and they're probably going to be fairly rich because the environment is so similar.
I'm sure, Bob, there are, but I'm not. I haven't done any research to have any recommendation. And I'm not trying to be legally safe or anything. I really haven't been doing the research. Okay, see you in a bit, Chris. No, yeah, I'm more concerned with just the iron and gold sort of mineralization.
Well, what was interesting, Keith, because that's where I kind of was. I always look for the iron if you can, because that'll be, well, even with the copper, the geologists that I've worked with are, where's the iron?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes it's a little sliver of iron that you'll see on one rock, and they start breaking rocks, and pretty soon they're showing you things, and you're going, holy crap, I would have walked right past this. I would never look twice at it. You know, they just see one little tiny fracture of iron, and that's where they start breaking rocks to see what happens inside each of the rocks. And within a matter of a few minutes, you're going, whoa, you know, I would have never even stopped here. I would have kept on walking.
You know, Lito, you probably had an amazing education as a child then. Yeah, the area near Montana B, there's two different kinds of ore bodies that I've seen. And one is interleaved between the sedimentary bedding plains, about 60-degree dip basically, and it tends to be pretty dark colored, brown to black.
Mhm.
And it can have almost iridescent blue in it. It might get hard. The other stuff is veins perpendicular and vertical. And these are apparently fracture filling from later on, where
Different time
something
period.
cracked it.
Yeah.
And these are mainly the red iron oxides. And so it's two different things. Yeah, I believe it, Lito. And one thing about your education, you learned not to succumb to wishful thinking, I'll be willing to bet you. You know? Because you saw the part of life that a lot of people don't see. And so things that other people find unthinkable, incomprehensible, stuff like that, you can look at it and go, oh yeah, I know what that is. I know what's going on there. You know, whereas a lot of people are a lot blinder, but it's a heck of a way to get the education. It's not a cheap education, that's for sure. So anyhow, I don't know. At this point, it might have been a benefit to you, but at the time it certainly wasn't, I would imagine. I know all the gaffs on the game. What does gaff mean in this instance, if you don't mind, Lito? Oh, wonderful. Chris has also been on a midway. Oh, so he and Lito are having a side conversation with Carney Talk.
Okay.
You know that dialect?
Pig Latin. Yeah.
Not very conversant on carney.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a basic understanding of carney talk. I know a few things.
Okay. The gaff is the secret to how the game is rigged. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the marks for your customer.
Yeah. That I knew, but let's say the term gaff, I wasn't. I mean, to me, a gaff is something you stick into a fish to get it on the boat. Yeah. And maybe it's the same etymology, because it's what you use to hook the fish, so to speak, to drag it in.
On the other day up here too.
That might be where they came from, because it's the hook to drag in the prize.
Right.
Maybe that's it.
Drag in the sucker.
Bob, the methodology for extraction is heavily dependent on the size, shape, and the mineralogy of the gold in that particular ore. It can vary tremendously. I like to use two examples from my own experience. Ryan's ore down in Tucson, free milling gold. I have my own concentrator I'm working on. It was getting like 80% recovery. You can use probably the more standard thing would be like a Wilfley table, Deister table, something like that. They work generally pretty well, but the gold has to be big enough. Now this stuff up here in Montana B, no joy on the gravity separation. The same equipment that was getting 80% recovery down there was getting maybe 20% recovery up here. So that's the size of, I mean, that's the thing. You need to test your particular ore against whatever technique you're thinking about. Now, the finer the gold, typically the easier it is to leach, all else being equal. And so as it gets finer, as this stuff seems to do, we're going to see if we can't concentrate it and then leach it. If we can do the concentration cheap enough, because you're going to have to grind it up pretty well anyhow in order to leach it, because the leaching solution has to get to the gold. And when we grind it, if the gold is almost exclusively associated with the iron oxides, and then we can concentrate the iron oxides, we're going to get like a 4 or 5 to 1 upgrade. So that when we get to the leaching, it'll be a lot more economical. So that's, this particular ore here, it's a pain in the butt. Others are fairly straightforward. On the standard machine sort of thing, probably a Whiffley or a Deister table is the most common way of getting free milling gold out of hard rock ores, and you're usually going to have to grind it up to, basically 100 mesh minus to get good recoveries in general. Again, everything is ore dependent, so you can't do a rule of thumb on that one. If you can do a gravity extraction, you're almost always better. Regulatory thing, a lot simpler. Equipment, the processes tend to be a lot simpler. Because like if you're leaching, first you got to put it in solution, then you got to get it back out of solution, then you got to get it out of whatever you use to take it out of solution. So whereas in a good gravity circuit, you might have a gravity concentrator and a secondary gravity concentrator to get it to where you just put it in with some flux and smelt it into a gold bar. If you're leaching, you're going to have to leach it, then it's going to go to either a precipitation circuit, which is less common, or a adsorption circuit where it goes onto a resin or carbon, and then you got to get it off the resin or carbon, then you got to get it back out of solution again, like on the electroplated on the steel wool. Then you're finally back to the same step of mixing it with flux and smelting it down. So those are the basic parameters in general. The coarser it is, the more it's just free milling gold, great. If it's finer, you're looking more toward leaching. The other thing is it encapsulated? Is it like surrounded by iron pyrite? Is it essentially alloyed with the iron pyrite? Is it in solid solution? Now you're going to have to concentrate the pyrite, oxidize the pyrite, then leach it. So it can get extremely complicated and expensive. It can be relatively straightforward. No way to tell without testing. That's where a lot of people break their hearts and their budgets. They said, well, it worked over here. Why doesn't it work over there? Well, that carburetor worked fine on my 57 Chevy. Why doesn't it work on my, 2012 Kia? Well, it doesn't have a carburetor. That's why it's got fuel injection.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Stephen, that's a good one. Unless you have an outboard. But the basic principles are fairly straightforward, but the ore makes everything, it tells you what to do. You can't tell it what to do. You have to listen to the ore, see what it, it's kind of like your wife. You got to ask what's going to happen here instead of trying to tell it. Because if you try and tell it what happened, you're just looking for a lot of grief.
Right.
You don't want that. If you're nice and polite, you can maybe just get it to cooperate nicely. But if you wanted to go to the ball game and your wife wanted to go to the movies, I don't think going to the ball game is going to make things happen too well. Okay? So, as I say, you got to listen and work with it. It's a cooperative venture between you and the rock to get it to give up the gold. If I see specks of gold in milky quartz, should it be crushed? Yeah. If they're actually gold, then it's probably a good free milling gold ore. I mean, if you can actually see them. Yes. Now,
I mean, if it's nice gold, though, the specimen quality might be worth more money than the gold. So that's a determiner, Robert, you got to make is if it's nice enough gold in quartz, it could very well be specimen. If it's just little pinpoints and you can see, by magnification, they're melted in there to the quartz good. Yeah, it's probably crush it. and take the gold out, and that could possibly be as easy as a real simple gravity separation.
Yeah, I said, when
You
you
know,
say specks, I'm
and
thinking
right.
pretty small. If you're talking little pieces
Or
or chunks.
veinlets, you know,
Veinlets,
veinlets or
ooh,
something.
yeah.
Because if you've got veinlets of gold, sawing it with a tile saw or a rock saw could splay the gold enough that the specimens look even richer than they actually are, and that could be worth a lot more money.
I like Chris's thing. You see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cut it. Looks
Cut the
like
crap.
crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, crush the crap. Yeah. I agree, Chris.
Yeah. Pinpoints. That's, let's say, if it's not easily visible to the naked eye, probably looking at just crushing it and
Yeah.
getting the gold out of it.
Yeah.
You can take it to a jeweler or something like that and get a better opinion. But yeah,
You know, if there's enough of it to, make a little pile, send it in and for an assay, even have them crush it, take the gold out, and see what the equivalent is.
but yeah, I say it should gravity separate. If you can see them even as pinpoints with the naked eye, that should gravity separate. Now that doesn't mean that's all the gold that's in there. So after you do your separation, then you have to have your tailings assay to make sure you're not losing a lot more than you think you are, and that is real. Maybe this week we'll have enough time. You can try panning this black poison here too. I tell you what, I thought I was doing pretty good till I panned the tailings. I go, yeah, it wasn't
Yeah,
working
there's
as
a
good
whole
as I
bunch
thought.
of it in the basin.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. That sometimes can get so frustrating.
Well, not to me. Again, I just want to concentrate it to where I can smelt it, so it's no big deal. But yeah, I mean, to me, to actually pan down to relatively clean gold is quite rare. When you're talking about it. I'm really glad that he sent it to me though, because I don't have much chance to try.
Was that from Four Gold Wizard?
Yeah, that was flower gold. They're going to send me some black
Flower
poison.
Gold Wizard.
Yeah, send me some of that black poison. And yeah, that was more challenging than I thought it would be. That's good. It's kind of like that stuff from the middle fork of the Boise.
But we highly recommend it. Excellent stuff for panning.
If you want something that's tricky to pan, go for it. That stuff will do it. But yeah, that's why I want to make a video, because again, with me, it's production.
Right. You're looking for small production, and
Yeah.
that's how I look at it. I look at it from even a small commercial standpoint of, is it a 2-man mine operational? Because that could be a lot of fun.
Terry, you forgot with the fishing pole stuck in a holder on the bank, waiting for a bite on your bait. Because then you can do two things at once. That's what I call efficiency. I'm prospecting and fishing all at the same time. And if you pick your gravels correctly, you can be chumming for the fish. Helgramites and all this. See, those are what we call tailings. Helgramites and grubs and stuff. I think Lito and Chris are trying. I don't know. It's more like when you're yelling at it.
Yeah,
You need to take a break.
Yeah, or you start throwing pans and things.
What is it? A little over 100 miles to Great Falls from here?
Somewhere right around 100.
Yeah, I think it's a little more than 100. I think like 110 or something.
About 2 hours. It's not a bad drive from here at all. It's straight up 15.
Chris, you evidently don't know how to put your pole in the rocks like I do. Oh, you fly fish. Well, you see, there's your problem right there. That's what you call work. Me, I like that nice relaxed fishing, where you just kind of throw it out in a good spot and kick back and wait for the fish to tell you you've got energy. It's time to expend energy. Ooh. Yeah, and what size hook do you use for those?
daughter got that the other
Now
night.
that's a nice brown. What is that, about 10, 12 pounds?
I don't know, but it's a nice fish.
That's a good
She
size.
got that on a fly rod the other night.
Yeah.
I think she was on the Jefferson.
Robert MacGyver wants to hear your dulcet tones again, little one.
Hello, Robert.
Is that good, Robert? That's about all we're going to get out of Eva tonight. I'm sorry. She's had a rough day and a busy week and hadn't really got a chance to get prepared. Jim and I don't give a damn, prepared, not. Throw it at us. We'll throw it right back. What the hell? We're
We can handle it.
Yeah, even I want to get up to Glacier sometime this summer too. Oh man, Terry, that sounds like you live in the wrong spot right now. I'm thinking that while there may be snowbirds that go south when it's wintertime and stuff, there may be flybirds that because I've heard like there's a particular season like in Alaska where the mosquitoes will kill you. If you're unprotected in 4 hours, you're exsanguinated.
Well, Minnesota, where I come from, is like that. It's about the time the sun starts going down, you better be ready.
Now, how long does that last? Is it like a short season, or is it like all summer
Like in
long?
Minnesota, if there's humidity and moisture, it can last all the way into August till it gets hot and dry.
Do the repellents work worth a damn?
To a point. I mean, you get to the point where you want 100% beef because you can't stand them anymore. And the black flies here. That's part of what I liked about Montana is that really we might have mosquitoes here for a night or two, really minor, and then they're kind of gone, and you'll get the horse flies and deer flies, but they kind of have a cycle too, about 2 weeks or so, that they're really nasty and drive you crazy, and then it's over. And then the rest of the fall, summer and fall is beautiful. So here, it's kind of the best of all worlds, really.
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Man, if you could just get the geese to eat the black flies. The Lost Dutchman mine. Not in any detail. I mean, I've been out, past the superstitions and stuff. I lived in the area for a long time, and it's kind of hard to tell how accurate the legend is. There's similar legends almost everywhere where there's gold mining. There's some prospector who does this and goes out and comes back with gold all the time, and everyone tries to follow him, and nobody ever can do it. So I'm not sure. Nobody's ever found anything that seems to match what would have to be there to be the Lost Dutchman. One guy can only dig so much gold. I'm also not familiar with what details of the gold might have been. I mean, clearly, now that I know more, one of the things would be, is this hard rock gold or placer gold? The geologic data in the Superstition Mountains, I'm not sure. I know there's some big copper mines not too far away. There's Superior, Miami, Globe. I mean, these are major world-class polymetallic deposits. So it would certainly be quite feasible for there to have been such a high-grade mine there. I mean, a lot of Arizona is pretty heavily mineralized. Somewhat similar to Montana, but I'd say it's more a target-rich environment up here, although there's a lot more patented claims.
Yeah, this is an interesting country, though, for being able to hunt.
Oh, I'm not advertising, Bob. I I don't like having to deal with ads, so I'm not getting any money for this.
This is educational more than anything, Bob.
If you see commercials on his videos, let us know.
Yeah.
We're I don't know. He started this as a neat deal, and then I've gotten to participate, and I think it's great. And to bring up subjects that you won't hear on other gold shows, or and we're not doing it for the money. If it leads us to a mine, or somebody has something they want him to look at, or me, or whatever, we'd be happy to talk that through. But it's educational.
Yeah, we're not doing it for the YouTube money or the whatever. I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate the Patreon, and when I really needed money, you guys have come through for me, and I appreciate that too. Lito, I know there's some fossilized sedimentary beds in Arizona. Don't know too much in the way of like dinosaurs per se, as opposed to just marine invertebrates and stuff like that. Well, this right here is from something sharp underneath the truck this weekend. And that's from a hot muffler changing the electric fuel pump this weekend. So that's it. And Terry, maybe you can find some kind of critter that likes to chase geese. If nothing else, it'd be fun to watch, as long as they can keep from getting hurt by the geese. I hear they're pretty nasty. Thank you, Wolfman. We just enjoy doing this, and as I say, this is what got me noticed, so that my principal up here called me up, and we got something going. I get paid for this.
Thanks, Glenn, too. He made a note there also.
Well, I don't have a grub stake per se. First of all, I'm multi-talented, so I can find a job almost anywhere. I mean, Jim can tell you, I'm pretty versatile. But yeah, I wish I could, Lito. I'd love to let the mufflers cool. I was on a grade blocking it in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I wasn't happy with that. I thought I had a set of welding sleeves in my truck, but I didn't. So I'm going to have to get another pair. But yeah, and so that's just kind of what we do. I'm making a living at this. I'm comfortable meeting interesting people, doing interesting stuff. And one of the most rewarding things, Jim, people loves it out there.
Oh, every time I'm out in the field here, even going back to the same places sometimes, it's just amazing, the beauty and the quiet, and being in the mountains is a great thing.
It's gorgeous up here, and the smile on Eva's face when she's out in the middle of nowhere just enjoying it. I mean, that's payment you just can't get any other way. So we're happy, and I'm enjoying things, and the woman I love is happy. I mean, what the heck? Yeah, I suspect, Lito, you are kind of an interesting character. Well, I'm glad that you found them that educational, Glenn. I need to get a lot of the videos, the better ones, downloaded so we can start on some other platform, just in case something we say here gets us in trouble with YouTube, because we're not exactly politically correct here. How good a bite does a tokay have, Lito? I'm thinking. I think they're about this big, aren't they? I mean, they're decent size, but not gigundous, I didn't think. Maybe you can get a tokay gecko to sneak through the grass and bite the geese on the feet. That might work. I don't know what you get. Maybe a ferret or something. Yeah, Glenn, that's what we try and do. We try and do practical stuff, and when people have a question, that's why we like the questions, because then it allows us to focus. It gets more interesting.
Right. The questions that you guys ask a lot of times can lead us to other things, and then with Chris and some of the other guys who join in here, it gets kind of interesting sometimes.
Yeah, Chris is really knowledgeable about a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, and we have some other people. Yeah, Lito. Sounds about right. Little one. You there?
Yes.
Lito said, I bought her, his wife's garden. He says, I bought her a 12x6 trailer load of lime and chicken manure for Mother's Day. Some women don't get shit for Mother's Day.
That is an excellent gift. I wouldn't mind having a gift like that at all if it also came with chickens and rabbits.
Scotty, I have a multi-gas sensor.
Mm-hmm.
I have used it. I've never gotten in a situation where it's going beep beep at me. And I can't tell you whether it's better than a candle, but it will do things that a candle won't, like tell you methane and low oxygen level, high hydrogen sulfide levels, things like that. Most of that.
If you're going to go underground, buying a good gas sensor is worth the money.
Yeah, if it's stagnant air, if nothing else, it gives you, comfort and confidence.
Some, on a mine that's good one day can be bad the next as far as low oxygen, because if you get a high pressure or a low pressure front, in weather moving through, it can cycle the air in the mine and leave dead spots.
Mm-hmm.
So it is worth having a sensor.
Well, the other thing too, like there was a mine that I went to over by Tucson. Bud's mine is what it was called, and it's in a limestone, bedrock area. And according to someone in the area, when the barometric pressure would change, sometimes carbon dioxide would, fill the lower levels to a dangerous amount. So,
Your O2 sensor was worth getting.
yeah, say nothing else. It makes you feel comfortable when you're going in there.
The goddess of the tinfoil approves of oxygen sensors.
It's worth it, and there's some fairly inexpensive ones out there on the internet.
Yeah. Just email.
Lito's going to send you a picture of his wife's garden.
Just email the bear if you're looking for a recommendation for one of those sensors. He can tell you which one he got on YouTube.
Yeah.
He got it off Amazon.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Chris. What's the at what point will a Bic lighter not light in terms of oxygen content? See, I can ask Chris and he'll know. That's one of the nice things with all these people here. There's usually someone who knows. Around here, you usually wouldn't have much in the way of flammable gases, but some places in Utah, they've got serious coal beds.
I think even Idaho had issues with certain gases that would blow.
If it's less than 19%, you'll notice a difference in the flame. It'll be burning yellow.
It'll go down.
Yeah, because that's breathable at least. Should get you out. Maybe huffing and puffing a little bit. But yeah, it was nice having that meter because it not only has an alarm, but it also has a digital readout.
Right.
So
you can see if it's staying the same or if it's dropping off.
Exactly.
Right. If it starts dropping off more, you want to be exiting. Heading up and out.
Something bad's going on here. I don't.
But that's the thing, especially like here where we get a lot of climate. You can have an air exchange in a mine or a dead place in a mine because of the change in weather. And spring and fall, you see big differences too. In the winter, a mine will act, especially if it's got an air exhaust somewhere, a vent, it'll act like a wood stove where it vents up and out. Well, then in the spring, it'll turn around and go the cold air will run out of the mine, pulling the heat down through the mine.
Yeah, there's a.
And it can, you want to make sure you've got air that's breathable.
There's a mine down in Mexico I went in, San Francisco mine near Coquilpe, and it was big. Okay, for not a. They had levels 100 feet apart, 800 feet up the side of the hill. There's big vein, 10 to 50 feet wide, and man, you just stood at the bottom level, and there was a 10-mile-an-hour wind coming out at you.
You got to walk into it.
Yeah, it was pretty predictable there because it's pretty warm in the desert. And yeah, it was.
Oh, by the way,
Ah,
the media has decided that we should all be looking forward to eating the cicadas when they come erupting out of the earth later this summer. If anyone's curious, you can brew beer from cicadas, and yes, they are edible. Don't eat the wings.
okay, I'll avoid the cicada beer myself.
Me too.
Of course, I'm not much of a beer person anyway, but it sounds especially unpleasant.
Just telling you, according to the preppers on Osprey, you can indeed brew beer from cicadas, and it's pretty darn good. I personally do not drink beer,
Great.
I definitely don't drink cicada beer.
and I am not going to be eating cicadas, wings or no wings.
And I'm trying to call these up, Lito. I may have to reboot this computer. The other computer, not the one we're on here. And they're on. One's on Wi-Fi, the other's on a direct line, so I can run them without overrunning each other. Yeah, that's taking way too long. So I'm just gonna have to shut this one down. Come on, shut down. There you go. Good boy. Oh. Yeah, that's pretty bad, Bob. But yeah, that's it. It's getting insane, and they wonder why they're losing the PR battle. Bill Whittle had a recent video called "Blind," and he said, a long time ago, I went into an office somewhere, and they had one of those posters that said, the beatings will continue until morale improves.
Right.
And he said, and that's exactly what they're doing. They keep throwing this woke crap at us, expecting it to work, change.
It's going to stick.
And yet it's doing the exact opposite, in my opinion, of what they want. Certainly when you couple it with the results of the policy changes that have been made. Yeah, that's basically, and so he was saying, he was actually pretty cheered by it. He said, look, these guys are so stupid that they keep doing the same failed things time and time again. And
that's why I've been telling my friends, stand up and say something. Even if you're a little off key saying it, just say it anyway. You'll throw them off balance if nothing else.
yeah, it's pretty fun. I was at it's not Goodwill, but it's over there by Harbor Freight at Dollars.
Yeah.
Secondhand store.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm checking out. I'm not wearing a mask, and the woman is, saying, "Well, you require a mask in the store," and I said, "I have a medical, what do they call it?
Condition.
The medical exemption.
Medical exemption, exactly." And she's like, "Well, you have to wear a mask in the store." And I said, "I have a and I just pulled up my shirt to show my scars from surgery and stuff.
Good one.
I shut her up. I don't know if she was just more startled than anything. It's like, no, you're not allowed to ask. When I say medical exemption, there was some place we were at recently where the person I was with pulled that, and I think the people we were with, which were requesting the mask for procedural reasons, we're like, okay, good, we got our excuse. Now we can shut up,
Yeah.
I would imagine it'd be a tall yellow flame from the lighter. I think it would not be blue because it's taking a longer time and not combusting as well, but I'm not sure. Okay, now I'll see if I can get Lito's pictures here.
No, last week when I wasn't here, I was down in Missoula, and that's the liberal capital of Montana, I think.
I thought it was Bozephania.
Yeah, no, Bozeman actually is kind of little of both. But we went in a place for a hamburger or something, and somebody said, "Well, you got to have a mask on," and I said, "Geez, the governor took that away here in Montana a month ago," and they just stood there, blank look on their face. Like, well, they didn't know that. I'm like, I don't care. And I went in anyway, and nobody said anything after that.
We're on a wired connection on this computer that's actually working this. I have another one on a wireless connection.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay. Let's see.
I haven't wore one pretty much at all.
Here's the pictures of the garden little one.
I have at Costco a few places where they're kind of demanding it. Beyond that, I went through this whole thing without wearing
Well,
one.
they're now saying that you
I
won't have
didn't-
to wear one if you've been vaccinated, but of
Yeah, I
course,
know,
they're
whatever.
not allowed to ask you if you've been
Yeah.
vaccinated.
Whatever. It's beyond real.
Now, this is a very
And,
nice looking
you know,
garden.
At least when they drank the Kool-Aid with Jim Jones, it ended.
Very, very nice.
I especially like the netting to keep away the birds or critters. No, it's not over the top, is it? They're just critters.
Very nice.
Wow. Crops are looking good already if that's this
Yeah.
year.
Tell Mrs. Lito, dang good job there.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe here sent some of zebra rocks. I believe the first one, Joe, what you have is the rock was first fractured. The fractures were filled with something, probably calcite would be my guess. And then once it's by the surface, then the calcite is etched away by the rainwater, leaving those grooves in it.
It's a sedimentary flint or something. It's a mud stone.
Mudstone, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, that first one
Just
looks like
looking at
mud.
And the second one looks like a fine-grained. I'm guessing igneous. I don't see any stratification in it. So a fine-grained intrusive probably, or it could have been a lava that then later on was fractured with the ground movement and then ejected with quartz.
But
in
if it cuts and polishes
fracture.
well, that could make some interesting looking things.
And come on, last picture is some kind of a critter. It looks like it's
a dog.
It's a doggy, yeah. But I see a little hole there that looks like it's been dug out, so I'm guessing that's where the rocks came from. But that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. We used to do that at Lido at home too, at the farm. Or we'd make big trenches and put in the chicken, coop and cover it up for the following spring.
Yeah, it's pretty hot
Let it go
stuff.
through the frost cycle and because the ammonia can be basically straight nitrogen.
Yeah, it can burn plants pretty
Well,
easy.
the other thing we used to do is in the spring we could spear carp where I grew up. We'd go spear carp and then we'd bury the carp under all the tomato plants. And man, did we have tomato plants that were 7-8 feet high and
Around here you'd have to spear pike.
catch some of them slimy trout or something.
Now it's having fun trying to load again. Okay, let me see. There's another fresh email there from someone. Let's see what I can come up with. I really wish I could do the picture-in-a-picture thing. This is some
Little calcite in solution carry gold in solution.
I do not
I
believe
don't
so.
think so because
You might have a geothermal solution that would have a significant amount of calcite, but it wouldn't be like a room temperature or something. The calcite is easily dissolved. At high temperatures, you might have a calcite-containing geothermal solution, but it's usually quartz.
I would say you're right. I would say quartz, yes. Calcite, no.
Okay, and I have a thing here from Kansas, and they're asking about silica dust from crushing, and I'm trying to respond here, and my computer's just going really, really slow. So I don't know if you're listening, Kansas, but basically you need just a good non-toxic particle respirator. Okay. If you have a toxic particle respirator, it's even better because they're finer.
Right.
But it's just a good, like an N95 should be fine. And just don't stick your face in the dust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
try to use the wind to your advantage if you're outside.
yeah, one of the usual things is directly above the crusher is usually clean air because the wind's blowing in some direction. And so either get to the uphill side or, I mean, if your face just directly over top, if it's down below you a little bit, yeah, it sucks. Just use a good.
That's a good comment, Chris. You really want to, play with the rock and make sure.
Respirator. The giant moving mud puddle? Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. That's the one in near Salton Sea.
Blowing.
Now, one thing you have to think of too.
Okay, Argonaut's got a good question for you there.
A lot of gold ores have more than just silica. It's like an arsenal pyrite-based ore or something like that. You may have toxic dust as well as non-toxic. So let me see what we got here. Argonaut. I don't get your air classifier. It would seem that two particles of equal surface area would result in a heavier. You're assuming that the gold particles are relatively coarse and that the rock particles are relatively fine. The gold particles are usually down in the 500 to 200 mesh range. We're just trying to grind to 100 mesh in the rock itself. But here's the funny thing. If the gold particles are so heavy that they don't get blown out, but they'll either A, go back in and get beat up to where they will, or B, just lay in the bottom of the mill. Now, I can tell you that there's a significant amount of the coarser gold particles that do wind up settling in the bottom of the mill. But if you were to run a bunch of ore through there and wind up with a half an ounce of gold sitting in the bottom of that mill and maybe a half a pound or a quarter pound of rock dust,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be a problem.
No, and that
That's
mill,
a good concentration.
actually, Argonaut, that mill is set up for production too. I mean, it's the way Keith has it set up and designed. It's meant to run. It's not meant to run a test. If you're going to do a test, you'd want a small chain mill or another small mill. that it would be easy to clean out quick. The design really for this mill is that so if it would hold a little bit of gold in the mill, that's not an issue. When you do pull it apart for maintenance or checking things, you could clean that out and you'd still recover it. You're not losing it.
So yeah, I mean, the really coarse gold particles, say 100 mesh, 50 mesh, those are going to tend to get trapped in the mill.
Yeah.
But that's fine,
Yeah,
because you're trying to throw other stuff away while you trap the gold somewhere. And again, it's not designed as a test mill. It's not designed to throw 20 pounds in it and crush it and see what happens.
Pail and then you're done.
Yeah, this is for production. We're running 300 pounds an hour.
Yep.
So 300 pounds an hour times 8 hours, you're looking at 2.4 tons of rock. And if 10% of your gold is still sitting in the mill, no problem.
Yeah, because that's going to be coarse and easy to clean up for the most part anyway.
Yeah. The mill I have run where I've used just a dust collector bucket with an outlet.
Yeah.
And that dust collector bucket with the stuff from Ryan's mine was probably collecting 25 to 40% of the gold right there. Just where the dust and air is coming in, being spun to centrifugally extract the dust, and then water just being squirted in there and swirling around. And that itself was doing a decent job of getting the recovery. I mean, I was getting more gold out of Ryan's ore in my dust collector than I'm getting out of Montana B in the concentrator. So again, depending upon the gold, it may or may not be a problem. In the case of Montana B, yeah, it's just going to blow out. There's no problem. I'm wondering if we may not want to get a coarse grind on Montana B before the iron separation, like maybe a rolls crusher or something like that, and then use a fine grind afterwards before leaching. Yeah.
Chris, after we opened that mill up, after we ran it, there wasn't that much material because of the amount of airflow actually going through that thing. I don't know that it's going to be a lot of overgrind. We were trying different plates. We tried 3 different size plates in it for closing the outlet, a little and a little more and a little more, and jump back and forth. And not to say there isn't overgrind, but I would be surprised. I mean, it's doing one hell of a job the way it's designed. And with the amount of air moving through there, if the particles are light enough to go, they're leaving.
Yeah, I suspect that the softer minerals just get attrition ground almost instantly.
Yeah.
If you needed to minimize the overgrind, I don't think an impact mill is going to work with that ore. In the rock where you get gold veins deposited from the liquid, it's not molten quartz. It's quartz dissolved in water, along with gold dissolved in water. And I believe the temperature is around 300 degrees centigrade, assuming you have a few other fairly common ions in there to help the gold dissolve. But it's only about 300 degrees centigrade and sufficient pressure to keep it liquid water. If it loses that pressure, then you get what they call a boiling water deposit, as opposed to just precipitating one. I'm not familiar with the details of it, but I know they do look different. I have no idea.
Just sent you a picture.
Oh, there's the cookie.
Yeah, just sent you a picture of
Okay.
the gecko.
Yeah. Well, this thing's going so slow. There it is. Let's see. Want to see a picture of Lito's gecko? Apparently this thing can leave a mark. Oh, come on, you stupid computer.
Sounds like a fun pet.
This is how come we're not having the buffering, is because that computer is the one we were using.
Yeah.
Aww, he's so cute.
Yeah.
I want a gecko.
I think you can probably, it looks big enough to leave a mark. Yep.
I love lizards.
Lizards are cool.
Okay. I'm gonna bite you to bleed, huh? Hope that answered the question, Robert. Glenn, why is placer gold scattered and found in nuggets near the surface if there is no mineralized vein? Well, there's a couple of different reasons. Number one, it can travel quite a ways from the mineralized vein. It can be washed quite a ways. And the other is there's different kinds of mineralized veins. For example, I ran into that situation in Arizona with our break for bedrock where you had a fractured, decomposing bedrock. There was no sign of what I would consider a vein there.
Mm-hmm.
And they were metal detecting nuggets out of that crap. Okay? And I'm not, I'm not suspicious at all that they were salting or anything because the guy I was working with on that particular project came in after me and they were still doing it. Last I heard, they were still digging out the what they call pocket gold.
Then the other part of that is you've got, like in the case in this area, these mountains were as much as 3,000 feet higher than they are now. So the degradation and the loss of that material was veins and rock that disappeared and went down the drainages into the valleys that carried gold, as well as some of the heavy gold basically just dropped as the mountain wore away. It just slowly dropped to where it's laying on the surface today. So there was a vein there, but it may have been, up out in the air somewhere, what you're looking at, in modern today.
Yeah, it might have been 5,000 feet up the mountain.
Right. The gold that's on the surface precipitated from something that's disappeared. If you're up high somewhere. Yeah, it eroded out of that vein, and the vein material washed away down the drainage. Some of the fine gold will always go with that, which normally in a placer you'll find fine gold the farther down the drainage or the river you go. And in some cases, some of that gold traveled for hundreds of miles down a river system, and kept accumulating at certain places. But the vein that created that the gold was in is degraded and disappeared. So it ends up laying on the surface. So, ideally, if you can find what they call a residual placer, where you can find nuggets on the surface like that and start digging into the ground right there and get onto the vein, it could possibly be a very rich vein going down, or going into the hill. But you have to find that residual spot where that gold never really left, right where it came out of that rock.
The video that I'm posting probably tomorrow, the Prospect M, there were trenches, around that hill. They weren't all over the place, but I ran into probably half a dozen of them staking the claim, and they were very shallow, so it wasn't like they were getting deep placer. My guess is they were what they call loaming, which is you're taking samples of the soil and panning it and looking for gold. When they found some, Then they start digging that up, hoping there was a vein underneath it.
Finding that was, yeah.
And that may be how they found that particular pocket of Prospect M. That would explain why there was all that dirt piled to the side. Well, I made the trench to drive and add it in. And then there was all the rock piled out in the dump. Oh yeah, yeah. Over in Imperial Valley, they got some serious geothermal stuff. It's really nasty brine though. It's got so much salt in solution that they want to bring it up, use some of the heat, and then re-inject it before it precipitates too much. But that could happen, Jeff. Absolutely, that's what a hot spring is. Yes, they do. They have a couple of them. I used to sell supplies to one of them, and well, one thing that was interesting was at the time, I believe the guy said there's around 30 different companies to run one geothermal plant. And I asked him why. He said, no, this is in Salton Sea, California. He said it was liability limitation. You have one that owns the well rights, one that owns the well, one that owns the pipeline route, one that owns the pipeline, one that owns it. And that way, if anything happened, like say the pipeline breaks, no, the pipeline company just declared bankruptcy. See? And so then they form another company that comes in and takes over and does it. And it's all just for liability limitation.
Buy their own company back.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of something like that, that lets you know the legal system is pretty screwy when it makes sense to have 30 companies to do one job. When you're deliberately complexifying it.
To answer that, Glenn, like I say, some of that degraded in place. That gold just literally fell, vertically, just like dropping it on the floor. As those veins in that mountain eroded, some of that gold didn't move. Some of it, could have moved hundreds of miles down a river system, but some of that gold literally fell vertically as that rock wore away and didn't really move from its mother lode, per se.
Yeah, that would be what they call a residual placer.
Residual placer.
Yep. And I'm suspecting out by that Prospect M metal detector might be interesting.
The more I learn, the more I use my metal detector in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
Terry's asking about thoughts on saddles and stuff. Yes. I mean, if you can identify historic mines or old workings or a saddle between placers on two different sides of a ridge or something, there's a good chance that the saddle is there because the erosion was a little greater at that point on the mountain, which could tend to say that there's a vein. In some cases, the faulting is the drainage itself.
Well, Lito, I'm not going to argue with that one. I think Jim's got me a little bit, so I think it's going to be her against Jim. Of course, I've got a new aorta and stuff like that, so that would probably give me an unfair advantage. New parts, right? You rebuild the car.
Right, keep working on it.
No longer original.
Get another 100 out of it, right?
Yeah. But no, I wouldn't doubt it at all. Especially if she comes from a family that's been working for a long time and was working up to the time that she was born. Then yeah, she's probably got the genes for stamina. Absolutely. Ladies first. Well, the fact that she lived says a lot right there, Lito. Yeah. The fact that she's still alive shows that she's pretty tough and a survivor. She's also maybe not massively intelligent. That's not the key, but she has to have a good native knack of knowing the right thing to do. And none of her family died, and they weren't bureaucrats or something like that. If they were, conventional peasants and such, and none of them died, they were some pretty sharp cookies. Absolutely. Your wife is a master seamstress also? Wow, that's skill. Especially if you're talking like in the Chinese tradition, a master seamstress is pretty simple. Her uncle was General Li Fu Yicheng. I do not know that it is. In fact, his general was a fairly high thing. Little one, do you know a company called LaRouque? It would be high-end stuff in South Carolina. Clothing.
Not really, because I don't pay attention to clothing.
Not familiar with it. I love this. Eva said she doesn't pay attention to clothing. I like that line. Look up LaRouque, South Carolina. Okay, I'll give it a try while my illustrious assistant over here takes over monitoring the comment stream.
Well, Glenn, to back up just for a moment to that, think of it this way, as far as that gold laying on top of the ground somewhere, where you find it with a metal detector. Gold is 19 times heavier than water, okay? That's why it's easy usually with placer, decent sized gold to get separation, basically. The other thing, though, is in most cases, short of magnetite and some tungsten or scheelite, and possibly some really dense marble, gold is 9 times heavier than most of the rock that it's surrounded by. So all that rock and like in granite turns to clay as it breaks down. As that erodes and breaks down and it washes away or wind blows away, and the gold is so heavy, it just basically sets. And as the ground blows away, the gold sinks a little more, and in a lot of cases, it doesn't move very far.
Lifestyle women's boutique clothing brand for whimsical, bold, and playful, South Carolina. Here you go, little one. Here's the information. Oh dear.
Robert, we're in Helena.
Okay, that's why I've had a little trouble. You misspelled it, Lito. The first U is not there. Well, here you go. This is where Lito's wife makes clothes for.
Yeah.
SWAT fame in the City of Industry for 8 years. Wow.
Cool. Thanks, Glenn. We'll take a look at them later.
I'm not in Butte. I'm in Helena.
Yeah.
So you just like practicing next door.
Well, yeah, it's not too far away.
She makes the patterns herself.
Oh, that's cool.
She makes the samples for Annabelle now.
Very cool.
Are you a failure with rye patch?
Familiar.
Familiar.
Yes. Spell check.
And
A little bit, Jeff.
voice
Not,
to text, huh?
I've never been down in that area working, but I have read the history and read, a lot about it. And I do know somebody I could call if I needed a question answered about it.
Yeah, I can understand Goldstream. It can be very difficult to get the stuff when you're out there on the plains just a little bit.
Well, that's an issue we even have here, Goldstream. Some of these drainages, the gold that most of us really want to see, the nice stuff, could be buried under 90 feet of, gravel. some of these drainages, these mountains came down so much in this area,
What did you tell you? Tinfoil
you know, back at some point in history and time, that the original gold that was laid down as those were eroded and concentrated down is deep.
Just ask her, Lito. She'll tell you. Yeah, if it's not fairly close by, you may not be able to figure out the source. If it's gone very far, the source may no longer exist.
That's true too.
It may be 1,000
Right.
feet above ground level now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's where
rock
it came
that was
from.
once on top of the rock you're seeing today may not, you know, it may not exist at all.
Yep.
And there's places like that where that gold came out of something that isn't there anymore. That's a good point, Keith, because that's true. I mean, they've actually been able to prove that the, you know, the mineralization that happened at that point isn't even there.
Yep. And I mean, that's the thing is that all of these rules that we give you are guidelines.
Yeah.
They never work all the time. Some of them don't even work
at all.
most of the
Yeah.
time. Just sometimes they'll
Well,
work. So you got to think about it.
There's the longer you're in this or the longer you learn about it, you do find commonality between like one source guy where a guy's getting gold and another source where a guy. There is some similarities that help to build on your knowledge. But like he said, what happens on this side of the hill isn't exactly the same as what's on that side of the hill all the time. In a lot of cases, it's two completely different operations that operate completely different.
Well, it's kind of like fishing. There are certain general principles of fishing that often work, but don't always work. But in particular places, there's a particular technique, a particular bait for a particular fish that works really well. But, you know, you move 50 miles, that may not work. It's that kind of thing. Luckily, it usually at least doesn't change depending on the weather. That's one nice thing about gold mining as opposed to fishing. At least the rock doesn't change according to the weather. Now, your placer gold in stream beds does.
Oh, yeah, that can move. Well, and like there where Chris has in Northern California and that, some of that can replenish as the river turns over and moves.
Have a
the
big
gravel.
flood, yep.
Yeah, you have one really good winter, and the next spring you can go back to where you maybe suction dredged 2 years ago and hold just as much gold again.
Well, and that's actually one of the things they do over
Right.
there is when they find a good spot,
Yeah.
they'll just, once they clean it out, they just wait for the next big flood
Yeah, big event.
and then get back in there as soon as they can before someone else cleans it
It
out.
fills it all in and they start all over again. But if they're lucky, it moved gold from somewhere up, you know, the gravel, concentrated it again in that spot.
I agree, Lee, though, it is more consistent. Yeah, and in your neck of the woods, that would make sense. It's like Wisconsin with flower gold lizards and stuff. A lot of that's glacially deposited. It was scraped, you know, hundreds or thousands of miles north.
Yeah, 500 miles north in Canada.
Have you met Jeff? I presume you mean Jeff Williams. Answer, no, I have not.
Me neither.
We have
We grew up.
messaged a few times, but that's
We would
it.
love to meet him someday.
Yeah, he was saying he was looking for someone to help him on that, you know, shaft he's digging or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, you know, I'm kind of busy, but you know, otherwise I might be thinking of it. Depends on what state it's in too. If it's California, forget it. I'm not going behind enemy lines. My mom loved to travel, and there was a couple things she told me, and I mean she'd traveled Europe, South America, everything.
Yeah.
And a couple things. She said one time she went into East Germany back before, you know, during the Cold War. She said, never again. I said, why? She says, when you're on a train and guards with machine guns walk down there and say, everybody off the train in 5 minutes or you'll be arrested as a spy. Everyone's just throwing luggage out windows and everything. That's not a place I want to be. And the other place was China. And this was, a decade later or more. But she said it was the filthiest place she had ever been. And she'd been to the Middle East, where the main airport in Amman, Jordan, the restrooms were holes in the floor.
Though, when you don't own it, you don't take the best care of it usually.
I'm not sure exactly what it was, but they say she's been to some nasty places. They say South America, Middle East, Africa, and she said China was the dirtiest place she'd ever been. Strange, But yeah, when was she in China? Let's see. That would have probably been, I'm guessing, late 1970s, Lito. Yeah, if you can find a good grout, talk to him. He's made money at it. Yep. China right now is a lot different than it used to be, but it's likely to be a lot different than it is now in the near future. There's a lot of stuff going on in intergovernmental dynamics, not only inside the government of China, but also with other countries. China is very dependent on foreign trade. And they have been throwing their weight around to the point where a lot of their trading partners don't want to trade anymore. And that is not a good place to be in. It's kind of like we were with the Middle East in 1973. They had us by the short hairs and they knew it. I'm afraid that China may try to get out of it like Japan did in the 1930s by taking over what they need. And that could create some real serious problems in a lot of different ways. So we'll just have to see how that turns out. It's beyond our power to control. But I would be nervous about that. I know someone over here in Helena whose child is in China right now too, likes it over there. I don't think I'd like it living in a country where you have no rights. That would not make me feel good to know all you got to do is piss someone off and you're toast.
The social credit score thing, no thanks. At least over here in the United States, a low credit rating doesn't kill you for life.
Lito, I'm curious, when you say headstrong about Taiwan, can you tell us in which way is she headstrong? Does she think of it as a breakaway province? Does she think it's a great thing that needs to be protected? Your statement simply is not informative in that manner. I'm curious if you can tell us. You cannot get into a fight with a Chinese national. You mean if I were to get in a fight, I would go to jail forever? She means that Taiwan belongs to China. I can see why she would think that. And in a way, it does belong to China. The question is, which China? Going onshore or offshore? China's been around a long time. You've had dynastic changes and this and that. It has a history unlike the United States is so different.
We're such a young country.
We're so young.
When you look at China.
And we've only had one government. You take a look like China and India that have thousands of years of, civilization and recorded history.
Right.
And so they're used to mentally thinking of governments come, governments go, systems come, systems go. You take care, Glenn.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Glenn.
Yeah. You do not have the right to fight a Chinese national even if you're attacked, which is why I don't want to go to China. I don't like to be a second-class citizen. I believe myself to be morally the equal of anyone out there and superior to many. But it has nothing to do with my nationality. It has something to do with my personality and my morals that I operate by. And so, I say, I don't want to go there. Now, I don't have a problem with someone who does want to go there. I would have a problem with someone who wanted to go there and help them against us. You know, I don't know, parochial, whatever the term. I believe that freedom is a good idea. I believe that capitalism is a good idea. As witnessed the fact that the Chinese communists co-opted the power of capitalism to improve their economy. The Russians gave up on communism and embraced capitalism because it works. Simple as that. It works. Oh yeah, Lito. Yeah, I think there's a lot of anti-Western sentiment over there right now. And I think it's because the government has a conflict mentality. In other words, we're going to win, as opposed to we'll cooperate and everyone will do better. And so I suspect it's going to get real interesting. Chinese work harder. Wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. I think all Asians work harder than Americans.
Yeah.
Well, lots of bad things happen to you in those kind of countries when you don't work hard.
And in terms of smarter, they may have excellent intellect, but their system does not allow them to utilize it like they do over here. That's why they have to steal everything. You know?
Right.
They can't design their own military
and
or
build it
anything.
in the backyard.
Yeah, they have to steal everything. Well, their government is definitely smarter. No, I would disagree with that. Their government is definitely more able to implement its will, but 10 years from now, we'll see how smart. I hate to bring it up because I think that, Nazi Germany was also highly efficient. How did that work out in the end? Oh man, that's a tough one, Lito. He says his wife can put a Mexican out of work, and she is pretty good. Of course, there are millions of millionaires over there.
It depends on where the Mexican's from. Mexicans from the city, I've noticed, tend to be more like city people here. They're less busting tail than rural.
Yeah. All your childhood, high school friends are rich. Exactly. From American and Western money. They didn't make that themselves. They took advantage in a carefully calculated way of their strengths, got us to give up our strengths and give it to them, and they did well. But now they're holding trillions of dollars in U.S. government bonds. What happens if the U.S. government goes broke?
They're starting to sell them off.
Yeah, they're trying to sell them. And again, where does this end? They are in a situation where they are not self-sufficient and they got over 1 billion people to feed. They have to trade. It's not an option. They have to buy stuff, and in order to buy stuff, they have to sell stuff. If everyone else just goes, sorry, don't want to play, they're dead.
And they deliberately manipulate their currency to make their products cheaper.
I don't know how they got rich either, but they did it by manipulating the imbalances that existed in a very effective way. But those imbalances...
Look at how they got into the World Trade Organization.
Don't worry. But the thing is, those imbalances can be changed rapidly and unilaterally by other parties. And they are going to find out what happens. Okay, there's a city that only makes toilets for the world. What happens if nobody wants to buy them? See what happens?
And the wealth that left here to go over there.
Yeah.
Our companies went over there, and the first thing they do is hire somebody over there to help put a company together or to find the company that they need. Yeah, but some of those in between, those intermediary people made millions.
Sure.
Because they could speak English maybe, so they could work both sides of the program.
Yeah,
And we haven't been in a situation like that since after World War II in this country to do that. Actually, probably prior to World War II.
Mohammed, how is it working? If it's a slight curve, do you mean side to side or front to back? I mean, top to bottom. Melt gold at 1948 degrees in solution at what temperature travel in fissures? 300 degrees centigrade is all it takes to dissolve the gold. Doesn't have to melt at all. Much lower temperatures. To a great extent, you're correct, gold stream, but there's other countries out there in the world besides the United States. We're rapidly making ourselves unimportant.
He was in Canada, and which is same as here. I mean, we're under the same bunch of politicians that have sold us out for the last 50 years.
Well, and a dictatorship is always more effective and efficient if it's well run than a democracy, because it can just decide and do. The problem is that if they make the wrong decision, there's nobody to say, hey, wait a minute. And that's the challenge of a dictatorship is always being right. Okay, so it starts out flat and drops off like that. So how is that working, Mohammed?
That should work out okay if you're moving enough water through it to carry the material.
Yeah.
The 4 degrees could plug up a little bit with like heavy black sand.
Dependra, to find gold anywhere, the first thing you need to do is just a very few simple tools. Some kind of a gold pan. A potato pan will work, or an American style gold pan. There's different forms that they work. They work in somewhat different ways and work better for certain things than others. But you'll need a gold pan, something to dig with. Generally something to kind of screen the rocks to a reasonable size, although that's optional. You can just rake the rocks off the top if you want. But what kind of gold exists in Nepal? Where have they found gold in the past? Because that is an important thing. Well, what is your recovery, Mohammed? How much are you losing? That's right, MacGyver. We're young. We're spunky. We're getting decadent. We're feeling like, we can't get beat. That's when you get hurt. I think that's probably Fahrenheit. Let me see. 300 C2 Fahrenheit. 572. Yeah.
600 degrees.
Yeah, 600 Fahrenheit, 300 Celsius. Yep. That's about right. Uh, Argonaut, if you have sufficient concentrations, almost anything can be profitable. When you have sulfides or tellurides, something makes it more complex, you're going to need more gold to pay for the additional complexity of the extraction. In my opinion, it's not a deal breaker at all, but it does make life more difficult. And in many cases, what you might do is make a concentrate and sell it to a refiner. Especially the tellurides right now, tellurium may be going up in price. Mohammed, that is not necessarily true. The gold that is recoverable by that sluice will tend to be in the early part of the sluice. But the gold that is not, for example, if you had gold that was too fine to be recovered in the top part of your sluice, it's probably not going to recover in the bottom part where the water is going even faster.
Right, that's an issue.
So you always need to test your tailings. The stuff that's coming off the sluice, you have to pan it or test it. Do something. Find out for sure whether or not you've got any gold in it, because that statement that it's all caught in the early stages is not
true.
correct.
No, that's something I've tried to push here, Mohammed, is that, in a lot of cases like that, if you've got really fine gold, you may want to open up the sluice to, let's say, 1/3 wider at the bottom and slow that water progression down instead of making it steeper, drop the gradient back.
You're plugging the riffles at the top. When the riffles are full, then you will not be catching gold. That is correct. But you may need to just tip your entire sluice at a somewhat steeper angle. So the main thing is, opinions don't matter. Testing is what matters. Check the tailings.
Yep.
Because what you think is going on is what you think. The gold may have a different idea. Keep the butt end out of the water. Yeah, it should have a drop at the end off of the sluice.
Most of my boxes we're running quite a bit of material, but most of my boxes were running at about 10-degree angle.
Yeah. Hey, Lito, I'm 65, and I'm kicking. Jim will tell you, I'm kicking strong right now.
You kept up with me.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
If you're not have some serious illness or whatever, shouldn't be a problem. I'd say right now, the projects that I'm working on are a little complex, but we'll see what there are, coming up, etc. But surely you can go get some gold somewhere. That's not terribly difficult.
I definitely agree with Goldstream, and he's done a lot of testing there with some different sluice boxes.
I'm reading conservative greenhouse this month.
Okay. Lito, when I wake up, I have stiffness in both my legs. Not too bad usually. But yeah, my knees are starting to hurt and things like that. But it's been a few years and I'm still see there, Terry, he's 76.
He's still going.
Yeah. Okay, you're done.
Yeah, I know. When you watch a shovel load of material travel, it's like a moving wall.
I think you just need to
After it enters, yeah, you're right. It's
Yeah.
well, you could put if you're shoveling into it, you could put like a crash box like they use on a dredge or something where you get a little segregation in the top of the box before it goes down the sluice, because that'll help separate the gold to the bottom of your gravels quicker by having a little bit of a wash area in the top of your box before it goes to the sluice. Kind of like if you look up old rocker boxes that the old timers used.
What, the propaganda
They
thing?
kind of had a little bit of a hopper on there that they'd shovel into and put their and let the water in that before it went to their sluice.
Yeah, the Lieutenant Colonel.
And it gives it a chance to get some separation in the gravels before it starts going down the sluice box.
Well,
Scary.
okay, the whole article is that long. Okay, what are you talking about?
Lieutenant Colonel Matt Romeo, commander of the 11th Space Warning Squadron at Buckley Air Force Base, Colorado, released from duty after questioning creeping Marxist ideology.
Yeah, okay, so,
From yesterday.
yeah,
And no, it's a lot longer than that.
yeah,
Well,
that,
Goldstream
Yeah,
has
they're
a
trying
question
for-
there for you, Mohammed, on classifying the material first. That's a good idea. Or a small grizzly on the front of the box where you can
okay,
get rid of the
definition.
bigger.
He doesn't speak English well. Okay, crash box would be an area at the top of the sluice, which is just smooth bottom and is used for everything to come into and kind of settle a bit and start flowing out of. You know?
I know the trauma down to a quarter of an inch. So he's got screening.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Then it would be a matter of
I would
use
say,
it, but the V-mat rib.
yeah, you may just need to increase.
I would say
screening.
work with the angle of your boxes, like he says,
Yeah, just keep a
Yeah.
straight box, but just increase the angle.
or decrease depending on the material, how much of it's getting lodged.
And adjust your flow and your angle to where the riffles are. I mean, the material is kind of boiling a little bit in the riffles, and it's not sticking and plugging it up. And also, don't throw too much in at one time. Any sluice box can be overwhelmed if you throw in too much at once.
Yeah, you're slugging it.
Yeah, so you want to feed it at whatever rate the sluice box will take it.
Yep.
And if it's plugging up, even though you're feeding it fairly gently, you definitely need to increase either the water flow or the angle or both. Because if you're not overfeeding it, it shouldn't be plugging up the riffles. See, that's Goldstream is using a method to kind of even out those surges.
Right. Well, the thing is, if you can't quite keep a constant feed on it, you get a surge, because if there's no gravel going down the sluice box, your water actually picks up speed. So you want to drop your angle of your box back a little bit, but then when you feed it a bunch, then it will want to scour the box. So you have to find that happy medium in there. Or get to a point where you can, have enough of a hopper that you can get a nice constant feed.
Yeah. And you can always test these things by using finely ground metal or anything like that to just test and make sure you're catching or whatever instead of with actual gold. But you want that box to work nice and steady and keep the riffles somewhat clean. They're not going to be perfectly clean. If they are, you've lost everything. But you should have a little bit of turbulence on the top of each one. And if it's set up right with the right amount of water, the right angle, the right feed rate, then it should flow fairly easily and consistently through the box. There's a lot of different adjustments you can try to make that happen. But by taking your box and making it do this, you've increased the angle of this end of the box. Why not just the whole box? I would agree. Nothing beats the real thing.
Yeah, virgin material makes life a lot better.
And Goldstream likes to use some miner's mount with expanded metal over it, at least in part of the box.
Yep.
Yeah,
the VMAT can scour too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's lots of different different way, and it depends on the particular gold that you've got. How big is your gold? You say you're screening it to a 1/4 inch. What's the biggest gold you have? If it's only a 1/16 of an inch, then you could go finer than that. So that's one of the things. By screening it to a smaller screen size, if you're not going to screen out gold, then you wind up processing less material, and it's a more consistent size, so it's easier to get it to work properly. The way they do that a lot is they'll have one sluice that has a pretty high flow rate and pretty big riffles and stuff, and that catches the big gold. And then coming out of there, the only thing that's left is going to be small stuff. Then you run it over a screen, and water and material falls through the screen, and it's worked on a second sluice, which is working much more gently. And so by doing that, you can capture gold. If all you have is real fine gold, then 1/4 inch is probably too coarse. But if you got any gold that's 1/8 of an inch or bigger, you may want to leave it at the 1/4 inch. Yeah. Big rocks will push out small pieces of gold. Yep.
The only thing you can do there would be to add more sluice box. Try to get enough length that even if you scour somewhere in the upper part of the box, you'll hopefully retain it later in the box. Sugar.
Okay, well, that's actually fairly simple, Mohammed. The action in the box will capture a certain size gold in the matrix and whatever's in there. And if it's doing it well, it'll get it real quick. But the gold that it can't catch has no reason to stop now. It didn't stop there. Why should it stop here? That's what I was talking about having the two sluices. Let me make a little drawing here.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, let me do it like this. Okay. Let's suppose you have a sluice here, and this is fairly coarse material, big riffles. And you got it fairly steep to allow the material to keep moving. Then you have a screen at the bottom of that, and then you have a second sluice. It's hard to see here. And see how it has a shallower slope? So the screen would keep that major slope there, and then this would be shallower. Boy, that's hard to do. And work finer material at a slower speed. That's called an undercurrent sluice. And you see it used a lot for that very reason, because each sluice with each material will only catch down to a certain size of gold. And if you've got a lot of different particle sizes, you have to have essentially a couple different sluices. But you can do them one after the other with screens in between, and therefore you don't have any extra work between them. Yeah, Robert, my friend Hiram Wood said, Keith, when I was young, every joint in my body was limber except one. Now that I'm old, every joint in my body is stiff except one. He said it would take him about a half an hour after he woke up to get all limbered up so he could function reasonably well. Yep. That is correct, Mohammed. The second is less aggressive because the bigger stuff has been screened off and it doesn't need to be that aggressive. It'll be fine. It'll be shallower ripples at a shallower slope and a slower water speed. But without the big rocks, if there's a larger material, it doesn't need it.
Now, I think a flared sluice would be the best. I think the best answer is go slightly wider and slow that water down on that the bottom part of the sluice.
Yeah, they say if you're losing gold, That's because what's catching the gold in the first sluice, it's not able to catch the gold that gets through it, and you're not going to see it until you change what's happening. Yeah, if you don't change something, then the lost gold will keep on going. Absolutely. But as a general rule, if it's gotten through the first part of the sluice, you got to make it more gentle to catch it in the second part of the sluice. You see, there's a lot of people who've done a lot of placer mining here that have different ways of addressing the same issues. How do you change things up a bit? A flared sluice means you widen it out a little bit. But again, if you don't get rid of the bigger particles, that'll just plug everything up. That would be cool, Goldstream, but I'm not sure how I would show it to it. Yes, I would agree, Mohammed. You're going the wrong direction. That's why you're not going to catch anything in the bottom half of the sluice. You'll keep your ripples clear,
Yeah.
but you're not going to catch anything. Yeah, as I get older, I get sore too, Robert. But that's kind of the trade-off. If you live long enough, you'll regret it. Or as my friend Gonzo says, getting old ain't for pussies.
Yeah.
We should open the door and cool it off a little bit. I've already got the windows open.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can get this cool here a little bit. We don't have an air conditioner we could turn on.
If we had a screen,
It's still light outside.
Oh, yeah.
It's 9 o'clock. Yeah. Pretty soon it'll be 11 and it'll still be light outside.
It's 70 degrees out there. It'll be light till 11?
11:30.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there.
Then it gets light at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh.
We're not quite far enough north to have the midnight sun, but we're close. High enough up the hill there.
That's a link to a picture of a flare. I don't see a link, Goldstream.
Maybe emailed it to you?
I don't know. Let me see if I can find it.
Unless he's.
Let me see, what do we got here? Just the one, huh? Yeah, if it's filling with black sand, you may need a black sand trap or something, but theoretically, the gold should be able to penetrate the black sand to some extent.
I personally, Mohammed, would try a longer box. You keep the angle, keep the degree of angle at 10 or maybe even take it up to 12, but add, 3 or 4 more feet. And yeah, you'll still have some plugging with the black sand, but the more surface area of sluice box you got, the better the advantage of possibly holding some of that gold. I'm not saying that's the full answer there, but you have to start somewhere and try to figure out, from your tailings and everything, how much gold are you losing, and then try to dial in on what it's going to take to retain that. Yeah, Bob, I was pretty impressed with using a gold cube for some cleanups, which was a lot of black sand. And I thought the cube did a relatively good job. Not that I wouldn't rerun the tailings a second time, in the winter when I had time or something. But I thought for a quick cleanup tool that's relatively inexpensive, I thought the gold cube did a pretty darn good job.
No, I saw that article. I thought the same thing, little one, but oh well.
Geological, right now I'm working on this copper project out here, and I've been doing some hunting for some gold stuff, but nothing, I don't know, we may not be placer mining this year due to the permitting issues and all the fun we're fighting right now, so. We do have an exploration permit though on our copper project and that we're gonna be doing some work up there on that.
Let's see, 4 liters, liters of quartz, 10 quarts, 2.5 gallons.
Heavy black sand.
Yeah, you got a lot of black sand there. Here's another thing you could try, Mohammed. Do you have a magnet? Because if you have a magnet, you might be able to hang it over the sluice box and pull the black sands out before they plug your riffles. And Goldstream says you're not getting enough water, which is possible, depends on the size of your sluice
Right,
box.
the width and length of the box would determine the amount of water you actually need.
Yeah.
Because if your riffles and everything are working right, some of that black sand should go through the cycle of the riffles, and it should leave the gold. The gold is heavier yet than the black sand. The gold should bed. If you got enough water flow to have a vortice in each riffle.
8-inch vortices.
Yeah.
Zioxio, give me a call around midday, whenever, and we'll chat about it.
Yeah.
Goldstream, you said it was an 8-inch sluice. Okay, both Goldstream and Chris are saying not enough water. Are you in a creek or something where you can actually use the natural water flow to provide more water to your sluice? Goldstream and Chris seem to think it's lack of water that's causing the problem, and it certainly could.
Yeah, because if you don't have that vortice turning over in each riffle,
It'll just
it'll
plug
just
right up.
plug right up.
Yep.
It's instant almost, because that black sand will pack like
Son of a gun.
concrete. It's like concrete.
Yeah, you could do that. Try narrowing it down and see what happens, or even cut it in half in terms of like put a 2x4 in there or
Right,
something.
yeah, put a board in and narrow it up.
Yeah, weight it down with some rocks or something, so you don't damage your sluice by
Yeah, that's
screwing
a
it
good
in.
idea, Chris. Just narrow it down at the top a little bit and see if you can't limit. And that'll push the water pressure up a little bit by doing that too.
Yeah. It could be oil contamination. Yeah, the creek runs too flat. Can you build a little dam across it, like rocks across the creek to get dam?
Yeah,
If you wonder what that looks like, there's a channel called Flower Gold Wizards, and he builds dams to do that. He deals with some pretty low flows at times. Okay, Goldstream says maximum 4-inch width. Yeah. Yeah. But that seems to be your problem from the people who are experiencing
And
these
Chris
things.
has a good idea there. Use a tarp to build that wing dam.
Yeah.
And force water into a wing dam and then through your box.
Okay.
So you could pick the angle up a little bit and force more water flow.
Yeah. Yeah, that would, it does say Flower Gold Wizards. Here, I'll write it down here for you. Okay, that channel there, he does that a lot. He's doing small creeks in Wisconsin, United States, and getting small gold. but he has to build little dams to force the water to back up and get enough height to run down through his sluice box. So give that a shot. Yes, Mohammed, that is correct, but it will let you know how to do it properly. Okay? It's a way of testing. If by doing that, all of a sudden the sluice box is working well and getting good recoveries,
Right, the recovery is what you need.
then you know, okay, I need more water, I need more whatever it is. But if that change right there, only 4 inches wide, makes it work, all of a sudden now you're getting everything. Now you know what the problem is. Too little water.
Yeah, thanks Goldstream for all the help there.
Yep.
Chris.
Yeah. Goldstream seems pretty confident. He's done some testing on this. And Chris is correct. If your sluice is working right, you're going to get material through it faster than you do when it's working badly.
Just by increasing your recovery with the amount of material you're running is the key.
Yeah.
You want to catch the gold that you are running. It doesn't mean, okay, if it's one less 5-gallon pail or whatever per day, so what? If you can catch the gold that in the material. Yeah, I agree, Chris.
Yeah, I think that we've come up with probably what your problem is. And please, when you test that out, get back with us and let us know how it worked out, what happened, and if it's still not working, ask questions. Again, we have a number of people on here. I'm not one of them. I do hard rock gold. There's a lot of people who've done a lot of placer gold. And Jim, Mohammed, I'd just say try it. I'm sure Chris has been wrong in the past, and he probably will be in the future. But basically, if a car is running really badly, it won't haul much of a load, no matter how fast you're trying to go. But if it's running good, it'll haul a big load a lot faster. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah.
Goldstream.
Once you know how to do it properly, then you can upsize.
Right, then you can scale it accordingly to a bigger pump and a bigger box,
Yeah.
But
Or using dams,
if
whatever you have
you're
to do.
losing gold, that's not helping you already. So even if it's less material you run and you increase the amount of gold you get, now you're dialing in on it.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true, Chris. You can. You have to have the water, though.
Yeah.
And there's limitations definitely to the width of the box, the amount of water, as to how much volume it will handle. But you can load it to almost to its maximum volume if everything is working correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. I say, why don't you try a couple of those things? The wing dam, the decreasing the width of your
Box a little
sluice,
bit,
and
yep.
see what happens. And let us know how that turned out, Mohammed, because this is interesting. And yeah, Chris is right with that. If it's not doing properly, you really got to slow way down. If you're not losing any gold, Mohammed, I wouldn't worry about it too much. As long as you can, if you're not losing anything in your tailings,
You're always going to have. It's hard to limit the concentrates, Mohammed. I mean, if it's hanging up in that box, it's the heavies, and that's where it can be frustrating to clean up all that black sand and stuff. But the key is to catch the damn gold. Don't lose gold.
Well, and also if you're having, there's only a certain amount of material that the box will hold physically. And if the amount of material that's stuck in your sluice stays the same as you're running more and more and more and more stuff through it while still catching all the gold, then you only got to clean up the same amount of material, and you're going to get a lot more gold out of it. But that's that's where I would take a look at how it's moving in there and stuff, and whether it's cleaning itself out. Hey, Mr. Lodak, how's it going? Eva's on the bed taking it easy. She's not feeling too chipper today. So, say hi to Mr. Lodak. So he knows
Hi,
he's still
Mr.
here.
Lodak.
Yep. Yeah, recovery percentage is what you want to go for first. Then you want to increase. Do you think if you have gold in your V-rib mat and you're getting more and more black sands, it'll kick the gold out?
It could, you know, the right rocks to hitting it could kick it. I would really be looking at miner's moss, or like Goldstream, I think mentioned, somebody did back a little bit, an active mat. Might be a better way if there's a lot of black sand, an active mat.
Define an active mat.
Well, there's some new product out that it's like it's concentric circles.
More like miracle mat sort of stuff?
Yeah, and it'll float and let that gold pocket. It's some neat stuff.
Okay, I don't know not if you can get it.
Well, if the
Yeah.
riffles are turning over, yeah, some of the sand, you won't get rid of all of the sand, but you'll keep the activity in there to where it'll keep exchanging the sand.
Yeah, if it's working properly, the gold will penetrate the black sand,
And go under it.
and if that's got to kick out some black sand, it will do it. You know, and there's a lot of different kinds of mat that work differently on different materials too.
Yeah.
Those are talking green mat, high-low, silicone,
Yep.
and they all have the things where they work best at. But where you're at, you're probably just going to have to deal with what you've got at the place with. If the black sand and the gravels in the mat are bouncing around a little bit, then you should be able to get the gold to penetrate in.
Yeah, there should be the sand should be exchanging. One piece goes in, one goes out, and the gold should work through that active part of that sluice.
Yeah, he's screening it to a 1/4 inch minus gold stream. Will that knock stuff out?
Yeah, VMAP by itself, I think, could be cleared.
Well, that's up to you, Mohammed. But the question is, in my mind, is how much gold? If I'm spending all my time cleaning up, I'm not spending my time making gold.
Yeah, make more.
You know, I forgot who it was. Might have been Bogus, but he was sitting there. When you're out in the field, you don't clean up your gold. You just make cons and dump them. Might have been Jason at Flower Gold, but I mean,
Yeah, but
make cons.
even in our big operations, that's what we were doing. We'd clean those mats every night. We'd only run maybe as much as 20 hours on our mats. If we were running almost round the clock, we'd still exchange them mats out and pile up the concentrates, and then maybe on the weekend we'd do our cleanup.
Yeah.
Our big thing was run material and make gold, and we'll worry about the cleanup later.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's always nice to see the gold at the end of the day, but when you're in, like we were doing commercial wise, it was like just keep that plant humming. Well, that's the goal. That's the money maker, is the sluice box running.
And I was thinking, like at Montana B, if we can get an efficient concentration, we should spend the summer working on concentration.
Yep.
And
then you get all winter.
bring the drums of concentrates
Yep.
someplace else. I have a place we could work. Inside got a wood stove, and we could deal with that.
Yeah, that's something we did. We did also, Chris, is our lower boxes we only cleaned our lower boxes about every 2 weeks. We cleaned the main first like 12 feet of our box within every 20 hours, or once a day. The lower end of our boxes, because we were running 18 to 24 feet a box, but the lower end of our boxes we'd run for 2 weeks sometimes. As long as they were actively exchanging material and not plugging up, we just let them run.
And how much did you find in the bottom part of the box?
Oh, believe it or not, especially like specimen gold that has like more rock than gold in that, you'll get down the box 15, 16 feet is where you'll find specimen. And a lot of your really fine gold will end up 16 feet down the box. When you get to that powder flour gold, it takes a long time to come out of that slurry separation. The visible gold, yeah, you catch that the first 2 feet of the box. Anything decent, heavy, and
20 feet a box.
Yeah.
Okay, now we got a contest to see who's his longest.
well, when I got that one report, Chris, and I'll bring it so we can get it on here. We'll get it tabbed onto his hard rock here, but they irradiated some gold so that they could use a detector to find it. And they did tests with all different kinds of sluice boxes. And believe it or not, a lot of that really fine gold that they irradiated would carry as much as 16 feet down the box before they would, have it in the box. And they tried it on they went around in the Yukon to different operations and threw that gold in those sluice boxes. And then when they did the cleanup and that, they tried to find it and then recover what made it out of the box. And it's a really, really, it's probably the most well-done report I've ever seen recently. I agree, Goldstream. Try more water and maybe even necking the box down as a second.
That would be great. We would love to see what happened and try different things. Try more water, less water, steeper, shallower, and just see what works.
Yeah, Chris, that's right. It is the Clarkson report.
Yes, Jeff, that's what it means. Oh. For many of us old geezers, that's kind of the way it goes. Luckily, Eva loves me just as I am. Yeah, you got that right, Jeff. Getting old's not for sissies. I can't outrun a grizzly bear like I used to. I tell you what, that's weird running around where there's grizzly bears.
Well, wait till you see one.
I don't know as long as I see it from a far enough distance. Yeah. I have to admit, you walk through the forest differently up here than you do down in Arizona. In Arizona, you're not afraid of anything trying to eat you.
Well, you like to walk through things quietly, and it's like, no, when you walk through a forest,
Exactly.
you make noise.
I'm a quiet person, too.
Well,
No,
it mainly
no.
makes noise because it makes the bears go away from
I know.
I was doing that deliberately. I'd be walking along and I'd say, "Oh dear, this is tough. Oh my," just to make some noise. Yep. Because as I say, it just is weird compared to what I'm used to. And say, once I saw that grizzly bear over there at Capital Sports, that 44 doesn't feel near as comforting.
No, it's not as big as you.
That is, that'd be like I'd rather try and stop a charging bull with that 44. Because I can just shoot them right in the head
Yeah.
and drop it.
Grizzly, the bullet might ricochet right out.
I've heard they've got thick skulls. The bullet ricochets off of one. And I bet you if it was like a 30-06, it would.
Rip their throat open.
That ain't gonna stop him fast enough. By the time I'm shooting at a grizzly bear, I got about a second till contact. You know how fast they can go, girl?
It's amazing how fast they can move.
40 miles an hour.
It's unbelievable. The first time I ever saw one of them, I froze just because I couldn't believe how fast he could move.
Well, I hope you got an AR-10, not an AR-15 there, Zeoxio. AR-15s, you can piss them off. Yeah.
Now, the good thing about an AR is you can reach out before he gets too close and put a lot of rounds in him.
So it might be an AR-10 or it might be a 500 Beowulf or something like that. But yeah, 5.56. There you go. That'll do the job. And make sure you got good deep penetrating bullets on that, like partition or something.
Partition bullets and rip apart.
Yeah, you don't want. Goldstream says we're buffering. How about
Really?
anyone else? Anyone else see us buffering?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, we haven't noticed anything on our end, but then sometimes we don't. Now, yeah, the AR-10's got a pretty good punch. Now, I've done some interesting tests, and this is hilarious. Okay, it must be you, Goldstream. I took an AR-10, firing full metal jacket, and it'll punch a nice, neat little hole through 1/4-inch mild steel plate. Okay, AR plate, no, won't do that. But the test against a cinder block, on the other hand, the cinder block effectively stopped the 308. Now, the 308 didn't stay in one piece. When it hits the first half of the cinder block, the bullet fragments. And you got jacket, you got bullet fragments and stuff going. Hits the other side of the cinder block and shatters it, and the pieces just drop. But 12 inches further on, a piece of paper didn't get penetrated. On the other hand, with the 1/4-inch steel plate, the 1/2-inch OSB holding up the piece of paper got penetrated twice. As the 308 hits it, it does two things. First of all, there's a bulged piece of steel on the far side. It makes a little dome that breaks off with sufficient velocity to penetrate 1/2-inch OSB. I mean, completely through. Leaves a hole. And the jacket continues on with sufficient energy to leave a hole. I did that by shooting into a bunch of water jugs and catching the pieces. But that was really amazing to me because, you know, the cinder block, it gets this horrendous damage to it. And you think, wow, that just went right through it. It didn't. It didn't go through it. It just broke it and dropped it in pieces. That was it. You know, it was amazing. Argonaut, there's some things like American Mining Rights Association and Public Lands for the People that are already organized. I suspect those are probably the best way to go for now. But why would you want the low ballistic coefficient bullet? Why not just use an AR-10, standard 308? That's basically about the same specs. I was firing like 170 grain at 2800. Oh, AR-15s are like 1 frickin' pound. Jeez, the bullets in my damn pistol probably weigh that. I know the pistol weighs 4.5. I mean, if you're worried that much about weight, just put 10 rounds in your magazine instead of 30. You know.
Yep.
So,
They Thanks, Argonaut, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you weren't, none of the ARs weigh crap compared to an M1 Garand.
Yeah. AR-10's about a pound and a half lighter is all. You know. The thing about the Garand is, if you need to butt whip somebody, it'll do a lot better than an AR. You know, you can go bam into somebody's face. Yep. Yep. 14 pounds is more than you need.
That's a heavy gun.
There's some
carry it around.
There's some guys in Yuma that build AR-10s that, you know, they're typically 0.6, 0.7 minutes of arc. You know, steel butt plate. My God's sakes, who has a steel butt plate on an AR? Yeah. Third world internet. Would that be Kanukistan? If you're shooting to 1,500 yards, you don't need an AR. You know, yeah, for something like that, a bolt action. Yeah. I mean, the big advantage of an AR is rapid reload. You don't really need that for target shooting. Yeah. Another thing too, if you have a semi-automatic, you tend to count on follow-on shots. If you don't, you don't.
No.
The best shotgunning I did was with a single shot break action. Because you got one shot.
Yep,
That's
make
it.
Count. Yep, make them count.
Exactly. It's a lot easier to build a bolt action than an AR. You know, I mean, they're inherently more accurate. You know. Oh, by the way, Zioxio, Eve also wants to go to Crystal Park sometime soon here. Probably be in a couple of weeks because we got the next week or so is pretty busy. You know.
I want to find Crystal.
Oh. I don't know about you, Jim, but I'm starting to get tired too. Yeah.
We've made a pretty good
You said
show
it just
tonight.
opened up.
We have good questions, though. Thanks, guys, for
Yeah, the
those.
questions helping out. Thank you, Mohammed. That really got a lot of stuff
Yeah,
going.
everybody was contributing there. Yeah, that's great.
We're going to be working on Jimmy's mill tomorrow to do some testing. And got the video on that.
Yeah.
Got a lot of video to do. So,
Yeah.
I want to see you with that black poison, see how you do. Mr. Plaster Miner person.
That sounds fun. I just love that.
It is.
I don't know, cleanups used to frustrate me so bad. I love mining, but the cleanup part was like, oh, do we have to do this?
Only if you want to get paid.
I like the stuff you can just pick out of the sluice box. That's my favorite gold.
Well, there's some gold in the bottom of that, the can that was floating in there. Just so you know.
That's some fine stuff.
That's plenty too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some in the bottom of that tub. And there's a lot of little tiny garnet crystals in the black sand part of that stuff that I want to find a way to.
Who needs garnet crystals? We have garnet crystals for you.
Well,
Big
after I
garnet
got
crystals.
that, I bet you there's more of that. I just didn't. I happened to break a rock and I seen that. And I was like, oh, wow. I thought of you and you were right away.
Oh, yeah.
She'll like
Thank
that.
you, thank you.
Big
The more
brown
the
garnet.
merrier.
Okay.
I don't know, Jeff. The bears aren't any fun either.
The thing about snakes is they won't chase you. Well, sidewinders do a little bit.
They just-
not very.
They get over part of the area I'm working in the other day, they trapped a bear. He'd taken down 5 cows on the ranch right there below where I've been.
That'd be great,
playing.
Zeoxy. I would love to. Somebody invited him to tour their commercial sapphire mine by Helena. He thought we might like to go with him.
You should, because that'll be fun.
Yeah, Eva would love that. No, I've dealt with snakes. 8 feet away, you're safe. Not so much with a bear. As a matter of fact, if you go back when we were on that trip to the, oh gosh, good enough, with Lars. Was it Lars? No. Joachim's dad. Anders. Yeah, I mean, there was one in the bush right there. That's why I use a stick. I don't think a stick would work on a grizzly bear. You just, stick the bushes ahead of you, make sure you if the bear makes noise, you just back up and you're safe.
There's a good piece of ash really long with a good sharp point. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, Zeoxio.
Yeah.
We'd love to. Let us know. You got my phone number, I presume. As far as I know, Andrews is doing fine. I stopped Facebooking because I disagree with their politics, so I don't just automatically get any of his stuff anymore. But I presume he's doing fine. Yeah. Yeah, I think they jig for sapphires usually. Anyhow,
Handing them, they'll take the pan and flip it upside down.
yeah, they often use a screen.
Or a screen, and then flip it. And
Facebook banned you? Good for you, Zeoxio.
then...
Woohoo!
Man, you're Eva Zero now.
They haven't banned me yet.
Use the cabin doorbell. Yeah. Anyhow, any questions, everybody? It's about time. Facebook knocked Chris out years ago. That's because you're not only a malcontent, you're dangerous. Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for being here and
Yeah,
the questions
thank you.
and all the input. Hopefully we helped a few guys. And
I'll try and get up another couple videos this week, but again, I gotta get that mill up for Jimmy and get that up there this week too. Oh. Chris wishes you feel better. We're working on it, Chris.
thanks, Terry.
Yeah, thank you. What is that?
Thank you.
Buona
Good
notte.
night,
That's
everybody.
probably like Portuguese for good night. Am I right, Chris? Is that Portuguese or Italian?
What does it say?
Buona notte.
That's Italian.
Italian, okay.
Buona notte.
Okay, looks like it, yeah. Yeah, Zeoxio. Too bad you didn't come by. We were there till 4. But we were tired by the time I was thinking of calling you. I thought, no, I gotta get home.
Oh, and Bear was tinkering with their Mosley cable and fixing it.
I wasn't.
Dialing it in
Was I
for 'em.
fixing it?
Yeah, you made it more efficient.
No, I made their cleanup more efficient. Yeah. No, the method they were using was less than highly productive, so I improved it a bit.
He also
Did they learn
taught-
anything?
He also taught them how to pan. He also taught them
You're
how to pan
welcome,
like
Wolfman. Yeah, I also showed them
Yeah.
how to do microfine gold. Alrighty, that looks like about it. So
Thanks, guys.
we're gonna call it a night. Thanks for showing up. Hope you all had a good time. Make sure to write down any questions for next week so that if you got them, you don't forget them. So happy prospecting and keep it safe out there. Okay.